comedic genius, Paul.
He's great at that, considering that was literally us started recording as he did that. I bet you're never going to be able to do that again, though, Paul.
Maybe Paul should be the divination wizard this time.
Don't T-pose. Right.
I'm asserting dominance.
Or, never mind, he's already done it. Hello everyone and welcome back, or if this is your first time, just welcome, to the first campaign of Twisted Fates. We're going to be playing some Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition with these lovely people here. I am Emily and I'll be your Dungeon Master for the duration of this campaign, and we've got our players going from top to bottom. We've got Craig.
Hello.
Wave, Craig. Euan.
Hello.
Matthew.
Hey.
Who we can actually hear this time.
Hello.
Problems with audio. And Paul, who
Hello there.
likes to assert dominance, apparently. Stop T-posing!
Stop
Great
it.
start. Great
The only
start.
dominance he has.
He needs to make sure the game
Right
knows
start.
that he is here.
Oof! We're going to
Very
be playing
professional.
some Dungeons & Dragons, but we're not going to be playing in the Forgotten Realms kind of setting. We're going to take a little bit more time to kind of explain the world we'll be playing in, as it's kind of a homebrew world of our own design, created by the boys through their characters' backstories, and then kind of me putting it all together. Then I'm going to let the boys give kind of a quick brief overview of who they're playing, kind of rundown of their characters, their classes, and a little bit about their personality. Prior to this, we have done a kind of more in-depth introduction to their characters, where you can kind of see their characters' stats, and they kind of give you a little bit more insight into their personalities through kind of a little Q&A. So if you're interested, you can kind of go and check that out. But for now, I'm going to introduce you all to the world of Elarant. So, the world is only about 350-360 years old, and our story begins when the world was just starting. The people of Elarant lived and thrived in the northern region of the world, building a prosperous capital called Ilvania. Now, the years progressed and the city grew, and eventually covered most of the northern region. It's roads winding through narrow streets, passing farms, fisheries, through lumber mills and stoneworks. Anything you could think of, this city was able to provide, to the point that they had some technologies but weren't too advanced, kind of early Atlantis style. The people wanted for nothing, and it was a testament and a monument to ages, decades of peace. And as a testament to this, they built their kind of centre, their base, their palace, Aramba, in the kind of mountainous pass that led into the northern region. However, the peace and prosperity was not to last, as at the turn of the 1st century the world was shook by a terrible earthquake, as the eastern shores of Ilvania were ripped apart. A fissure appeared, and from it, black mist slowly began to envelop the city. Everything it touched, it killed. Walls crumbled, water spoiled, crops died. It also infected the people, slowly killing them and raising them from the grave, to the point where the whole of the eastern section of Ilvania was covered with undead. At first they tried to contain it, treating it as some kind of plague from the Shadowfell, the kind of negative plane of existence that lives alongside the material plane, or like Earth. But then slowly creatures began to emerge from the portal. Things that they couldn't particularly deal with. Monsters of blight and shadow that chased the people of Elarant south. It forced them through the gates of Aramba and into the unknown, where many of the people now stay. But there was some who stayed on the wall. There was those who defended it against the blighted scourge, and they lost many lives in the process. It remained for about a century and a half, these people fighting for most an unknown war. But it was eventually vanquished. The mists began to recede, and the people began to rejoice. They could truly and finally forget about this tragedy. Aramba, though, was never really abandoned. The descendants of those who fought against the Blighted Scourge stayed and turned it into quite a prosperous city and settlement. And coming into the year of play, when our party will be playing, the people on Aramba are now the only ones who truly remember the Blighted Scourge. For the rest of the world, though, in the years after they fled Ilvania, a new capital was made and named the Citadel. It grew from the shores of the Eastrix Basin, and slowly it welcomed a new faith as well. New cultures, new peoples, new languages. They ushered in a new age of peace and prosperity, and it's during this time period that we are going to start our campaign, about 100 years after the Blighted Scourge was ended. But now for our 4 adventurers, my 4 lovely boys over here. Prior to this adventure, and prior to this session, they've not actually met one another. This will hopefully be the session where they'll meet, or it's going to be a really short campaign. I'm really taking a risk with that. But we'll see how it goes. I wanted it to be a bit more of an interesting start to a session, rather than a more traditional set. That's enough for me. I'm going to shut up for now. I'm going to pass you over to the boys and let them introduce their characters, but we're going to start with Craig, because I know he hates going first, so he's not really getting a choice this time.
How could you?
I thought I'd be mean.
Well, I will be playing Eidolon Daedalus, who is, as much as he doesn't look at it from the character art, a level 3 monk, Way of the Astral Self, though that isn't going to come up for quite a little while. For the sake and purposes of playing him, he's just a monk for now. Generally, he fights with a longsword, not with his fists. He is traveling, looking for something, though really even he doesn't know what he's truly looking for. He would be described as antisocial, but not due to a lack of wanting to talk to people, but more not understanding how people of the actual realm of Elarant actually interact with one another.
Yeah, because he actually comes from Aramba, doesn't he? He's not really seen much of the outside world since, since he started traveling.
He hasn't traveled in his life before.
This is his first
He's
time.
He's only been on the road for about a month, maybe a little more, so he's still learning how people actually talk to each other. So he might come off as a little blunt or even cold at times, but that's not due to a disliking of people, it's literally just because he's used to more military styles of living.
He starts acquisitioning farmers.
But yeah, that's me.
Who wants to go next? I will leave it open to you boys for once, rather than me.
Craig goes first. Hey, everybody else gets a choice of who goes next.
Well, yeah, I like them.
Alright, that's me, I'm done.
I mean, we can just go in order. I'm fine with one.
Go ahead, Euan.
So, I am playing Wulfric Reinbrandt, a human fighter, a grizzled veteran mercenary who perhaps likes to portray himself as cooler than he probably should be portrayed as, and is a man questing for truth.
He is quite a simple character like that. I do quite like that about him. He's not overly complicated.
Just like Euan.
I would say he's
Euan
actually
also
the
likes to
opposite of
hit
Euan.
Euan, you've just been described as not cool.
Well, I was saying more Euan can be overly complicated.
I'm taking it as you say he's not cool.
Shall I go next?
It's up to you guys. Do you want to go next, Paul? And we can leave Matthew to last for
shall.
once.
My character is Father Markusar Wylde. I am a dragonborn druid of the Circle of the Land. He's kind of a societal recluse. He kind of keeps to himself and his people. Kind of stay away from civilization, as it were. And much like Craig's character, he is also on a quest for an item. He doesn't particularly know exactly what it is, but he has a small inclination of what he should be finding and where it might be.
He has, like, the puzzle pieces, but just not the picture for the puzzle.
Kind of. Yeah, that's a good way of describing it.
We really all just decided to say, hey, we're social recluses who don't really know how to interact with society, and now we expect to travel together.
I mean, Wulfric's fine.
Birds
Yeah,
of a feather flock together.
Well, Wulfric's normal, so.
So just whenever you're ready, you can start introducing Ranaagash.
Yeah, so I'll be playing Ranaagash the Bastard. He's a half-orc divination wizard, and as the name kind of suggests, he's a bit of a bastard and prefers talking and insulting people rather than fighting, but we'll see how that goes.
I don't know, I think you can manage to pull it off.
Yeah.
Our quietest player, by the way, is playing probably our loudest character. So
That's why I look in pain.
it's just this entire session, just you will see Matthew in pain for every social interaction. Everyone is socially inept, apart from Matthew. Well, as in and Wulfric. Wulfric's pretty normal. But yeah, those are the characters, and hopefully they won't die, so we'll actually get to play with them for quite some time. You'll kind of get to know them. You'll get to know them through their journey and get to know a little bit more about them, and hopefully their stories will slowly be revealed over time. But today, we're actually not going anywhere near the ruins of Ilvania, we're not going anywhere near the Frozen North. We're instead in the walled town of Tenon, located on the River S, just south of Lake Monad, with the heat of the summer sun scorching the field as it rises high in the sky. As always, the streets are busy. The colourful tarps and stalls covering the ground in a rainbow hue. All tongues can be heard, as this town is frequented by travellers looking to come to and from the citadel, as there is no safer way to travel. Each one attempts to barter with locals for the best deal, and cheery patrons are already stumbling into the Esquire Inn. The inn itself is alive, with its patrons chattering like birds, and many exchanging dice and cards in hopes of gaining more coin. Ale flows like water, and the sweet aroma of the market wafts across the floor every time a new visitor enters. Unlike the winding streets of the market stalls, the buzz felt within here is not of bartering hostility, it is instead one of merriment, as travellers from far and wide, from all corners of the world, share tall tales over a bargained pint. However, in the corner of this inn, nestled by a window that overlooks a street, a half-armoured man sits alone, and is gifted another tankard from a smiling maiden. He exchanges his empty one with a nod and turns back to the window, taking another draw of his pipe and letting the burning leaves cast a fiery hue over his dark eyes. Passing by the window, just plodding along the streets, bemusing at some of the wares, as he makes his ways to the doors of the inn, waves of people begin to part for him, as they catch sight of an emblem upon his chest. With every step, this wandering man seems to click as the blade of a heavy axe against his back brushes against a chainmail shirt. And from the corner of his eye, he catches a somewhat heated discussion between a half-orc and one of the merchants. The man's face is hidden, covered by a wolf skin that he has draped over his head, though he has little else of note, as he furiously tries to barter for a quick meal in exchange for a hide of a deer. Finally, the crowd begins to thin, though it is only so that they can get a better look at the oddity now passing through the streets. A blue-scaled dragonborn, dressed in the finest peasantry, greeting all he passes with a toothy smile. The shock comes suddenly, with our man in the tavern, Eidolon, rising from his seat as he is the first to see it, before the chilling sound rings through the streets. A woman runs, racing through the streets in a panicked frenzy, through the northern arch and into the market square. Matted black hair has unravelled from her braid, and dust and dirt now covered her fineries. Almost on her heels are several of the town guard, and a few march with slowed pace as they clutch their weapons. She cries for help, with travellers turning towards the source of the distress, though all the locals seem motionless, continuing with their day, their bartering now muffled by her screams. In awkward confusion, more and more of the visitors seem to ignore her, some even turning from her as she begs for them for help. Soon, only our iron dragon Wulfric looks on in disgust. She darts around the corner, only a brief moment before catching sight of the guards. They begin to part the crowds, clearing the squares as they close in. She falters, stuttering and muttering to herself before attempting to run again. In her panic, she knocks into our half-orc Ranaagash, spinning on her heel as she backs away and regains her balance to continue her escape. At this point, she's given up on her cries, her laboured breath instead being held as a dull tone under the town's chatter and the guards' calls. She runs for the southern gate, knocking into the corner of one of the stalls and spiralling into the arms of our dragonborn, Markusar. Markusar, you have a second to react. What do you do?
Is everything alright, child?
She looks up at you in a sudden panic, and you can see as her eyes begin to widen as her vision clears. It's you! She suddenly cries out to the point everyone else in the town or the market square can hear her. No, you... I've seen what you do! You can't be here! What are you doing here? The whole square now can hear her screaming, and you can see her trying to run from you, though stumbling on her feet. She falls over, and before you can reply, before you can even take a breath, the guards have surrounded you, though their only focus is on the young woman. In her maddened state, they seem to apprehend her with ease, though a few of the men turn their attention to you before offering their apologies. You can kind of see a more taller one, grizzled jaw, kind of more steps in front of the woman, so you can't really see what's going on behind her, and just kind of looks at you, gives you a small nod. I do apologise for that, sir. I hope she caused you no distress.
No apologies required. Is she quite alright?
She will be. She's quite unwell, but we'll be able to take care of her now. She has not been well for a while. It's more of an incurable condition. She sometimes has these manic episodes, and we sadly have the joy and duty to apprehend her before she harms herself or anyone else.
Has she harmed anyone else before?
A few travellers, yes, but nothing that wasn't too serious, thankfully.
What might be this illness that plagues her?
It's madness, sir. That's the only way that can be described. As he kind of gives you a nod and then more turns his attention back to the woman. Though you can see, in fact, all of you can now see that the guards slowly begin to lead the woman away. And Paul, you'll kind of just be able to see over the shoulders of the man that was just talking to you. One of the guards accompanying the woman seems to retrieve some kind of branch or twig, looks very natural, from his person and snapping it before holding it under the woman's nose. She attempts to resist. You can see her try to jolt back, like she is twisting and trying to move her head to get away from whatever this is. But her attempts are very futile, as within seconds she falls unconscious, with another guard carefully cradling her and picking up his pace back towards the northern archway. You four are... So, Paul and Matthew, you guys are kind of more centre to the market square, and Euan and Craig, you guys are closer to the doors of the Esquire Inn. Seeing this scene, what do you guys do, if anything, or do you kind of just watch it play out?
You said the guard snapped a twig or a branch.
Yes.
For the girl to inhale. Is the branch still there? Could I examine it?
You could... He obviously put it back in his pockets, but being a druid, being a more natural person, you can make me a nature roll to see if you can identify what type of branch or plant it was.
Sure. Ooh, okay.
You have no idea.
Starting the session up to a great start.
Yeah,
On
so,
brand.
Get the nat ones out right now.
With that nat 1, yeah, you don't know anything. So our boys will be rolling on the nat 20 that's just to my left there. So you'll be able to see all their rolls as they're happening. I'm not going to be using that. I'm rolling in person so that they can't see what I'm rolling. But that's for the boys there. But yeah, Paul, you reckon it's probably a mixture of different things, as there's different coloured branches and leaves within the bundle. But yeah, you can't identify any of them.
Bloody great druid I am.
Off to a great start.
You were focused on making sure the woman was alright. You weren't looking too much at the twig.
That is true.
Yes.
Definitely.
I don't know anything that's going on, just like, alright. Must be a regular twig. Just a stick.
I wouldn't have intervened, but as the sort of procedures were going on between the woman and Paul, I would have gotten up, left some money on the table, of course, and more just circled outside of the tavern to more get a better view of what's actually going on as it happens.
So everything as
So
you're
probably standing next to Wulfric.
Yeah, so everything as you're kind of watching it appears very normal to the locals, but for the travellers this is obviously not so much of a common occurrence. You can kind of see that just as you're kind of more observing the faces. As you kind of scan the guards, kind of just watching them kind of carry the woman, she doesn't, or not she, they don't look like they have any negative intentions towards her. They actually look more fed up, if anything else.
The woman, more just measuring up her tone, measuring up how she looked during the process. Did she look like she was, well, mad? Like, did she look like she was ailed, or did she look more like in distress? Like she was very like in herself, knowing that something was actually wrong.
Give me a wee insight.
I think I'm good at those. It's like one of the one stats I'm good at right now. I mean, I say that, but we'll see. I think it's +5. Yes. That's a 13. Not too bad.
That's not too
Not too
bad.
bad.
She didn't look mad as such. You have seen soldiers go mad. You've also seen civilians go mad. It's not a pleasant sight. She was not... Yes, she was frantic. She was panicked. But she was very much in control of herself. She was specifically targeting... Like, when she was asking for help, she was specifically targeting people she didn't recognise. She was targeting travellers.
Every movement seemed intentional. Okay.
The only time she seemed to have lost it just a little bit was when she bumped into the Dragonborn.
Cool.
Obviously knocking into him was unintentional, but then when she started to scream, obviously the things she started to scream at him were all not intentional, they were unintentional, almost like she didn't have much control over what she was saying.
Cool. I'm keeping as they are leading her away, they seem like they know what they're doing. She is now unconscious. I'm keeping my eye on the Dragonborn instead.
Wulfric, Ranaagash, what are you doing at this scene?
Would I have been able to divine that she seemed lurid? She wasn't like mad. She was terrified. She was running from something.
You can also give me a wee insight if you want.
Okay. So she's a straight D20. Nope.
She seemed a little unhinged, but at the same time you can tell that she was scared. Like, you're not too sure what of, whether it was something in her own mind or of her own concoctions, or whether it was something chasing her or something she was scared to go back to, or whether she was running from something, but you know that she was scared. She was terrified almost. Though again, that terror seemed to change the moment she bumped into the Dragonborn. And Ran, what are you doing? Sitting in the corner. Well, standing in the corner.
Well, I imagine her bumping into me would have maybe triggered some kind of vision, so he'd be not necessarily reeling from that, but processing that a bit. And then, other than that, either before that or after that, would he have recognised the panic on her face as something he would have experienced, if you catch my drift?
Her panic prior to bumping into the Dragonborn, no. However, when You touch people in a totally non-sexual way.
You don't have to specify.
Sorry, it's a habit at this point. It's genuinely a habit at this point. Sometimes you do trigger visions. You can see into their past, into their future. You get a sense for them, whether you want to or not. When she bumped into you, you could sense that this woman has suffered a lot of trauma in her life, and it's a lot of trauma that she's not been able to cope with. When she bumped into the Dragonborn and she started screaming, that is something that you have experienced, maybe when you were very young, where you would maybe be taken to Kinreen with your dad to go and visit your mum, and you would bump into someone you didn't know, and all of a sudden you've been told what's going to happen to them when they're like 45, and you kind of have that small freak out moment. That kind of seems very similar to what she had. Is she was very intent on getting help, she was very intent on running away. She suddenly bumps into this Dragonborn and her entire focus is switched to him.
If that's all just sort of played out in that case, is that roughly the end of that, or are they just leading the woman away?
They lead her through the northern archway towards... when you all came into town, you saw a kind of big manor house on the hill. That seems to be the rough direction that they're leading her in, or at least carrying her to.
Could I ask
Pardon me?
one of the people nearby, could I just ask them where they usually take her? Like, I assume they're taking her to the manor, as you said, but like, just to confirm, like, what do they do there?
So I'm assuming you kind of go up to one of the like local merchants, one of the stalls.
Yeah, just whoever is closest by, who oversaw the whole thing. I just
Pull them over. And
go
be
up to them and say,
what is going on?
Excuse me, sir. Where might they be taking the young woman?
Young Elsha. They'll be taking her back to Bellamy's manor. It's usually where they take her.
What was that name? Sorry.
Up to Bellamy Manor.
The name of the girl, please.
Oh, Elsha Delvin.
Elsha.
And she's the farmer's daughter. She's been with the mayor now for perhaps 6-7 years. Oh, it's quite an unsorry case.
Would I have overheard any of this?
What's your past perception?
12.
You would have heard him talking about it, but you wouldn't have been able to pick up. So you'll be able to hear the kind of fact that they're talking about the young woman, but you're not able to pick up any kind of major details.
Would I have heard the last bit? Would I have heard she's been with the mayor for a while?
Yeah, you'll have been able to pick up that. So kind of the general gist of she's been staying with him for a while, but her name and the details you'll kind of have missed out.
I fully whip around to face it, walk over and go, what do you mean by with the mayor?
Her mother died shortly after her younger brother was born. Her father couldn't cope, at least with her illness, and our mayor, he offered to take her in to pay for her treatment, to look after her.
Would you say that he is taking care of her?
To the best of his ability, yes. He managed to get the herbalist to help with her episodes.
Are these escapes frequent?
More so recently. She's always been a troubled child. But enough enough of a more depressing topic. Do you want to buy anything, gentlemen?
No, but I know what I'm going to do, and I start following the guards. I'm not subtle, I'm marching behind them. The fury of an iron dragon on my face.
In that case, after Euan begins marching off, I guess I'd approach Paul.
Cool.
more from behind. Not stealthily,
Ooh,
but
okay,
it's-
from behind the sea.
Oh. I mean, if that's how you like it, Paul. But,
Children, behave.
Sorry.
More just with a curt word when I'm almost not directly behind him, but only a few feet away. With surprisingly quiet movement for someone who almost looks to be wearing armor. Do you know anything of what just happened there?
Only what this merchant here has told me. The girl suffers from an illness. I know
And I
not
suppose
much
your
else.
companion there is off to work this out.
I wouldn't call him my companion, but he does seem to be invested in the situation.
Are you? She seemed to know you.
That did perplex me, as I have never met the girl before in my life, as far as I'm aware. But her illness does seem quite odd.
Well, she's
Not
not
sure
ill. She's not mad.
I'm not sure if I'd be of much help, but I offer my help to all children.
More just eyeing him up and down, seeing if if the woman had placed anything on him. I'm assuming I would see nothing.
No. He looks kind of shabby. He's not very well armoured. He seems to kind of literally be travelling with the basics and nothing else. So from that, you would have been able to tell, she wasn't bumping into him to try and steal anything or anything like that, because he literally has nothing for her to take.
That was more what Eidolon's guess would first go to, since she's not mad.
Yeah.
And maybe this was an intentional robbery.
I mean, if she was robbing, that's sort of from me. I don't have much, as I've said.
Really bad bet to go for the shabby-dressed dragonborn druid.
She probably would have been better at stealing from Ran.
She could steal the clothes off my back, and that's all I have.
Quite literally. I mean,
Pretty
you
sure
have a
you'd
quite
give
nice
them away to
hand axe.
someone in need too.
I do have a nice hand axe. I suppose, I would follow after Wulfric in a, maybe not as aggressively as he was storming after them, maybe just saunter after them and be like, I'll see how this works out, this plays out.
I'll keep pace with him, walking beside him as casually as I can.
What about yourself, Ran? You'll have kind of heard more of this conversation than, for example, Wulfric or Eidolon will have. You'll have perhaps caught her name and where she's obviously been staying. And then you'll have obviously kind of caught the tail end of the conversation between Eidolon and Markusar. So what does he do?
First of all, that's very impressive considering his passive perception is 9.
Yeah, but you were also more appalled than the boys were.
Yeah. Second of all, I'm gonna, if nothing else, I'm gonna keep tail with this dragonborn because he seems to be the trigger, shall we say, for whatever she was dealing with.
Are you following stealthily, or?
Let's find out. Let's find out, shall we?
Oh, whilst I actually remember, can I get everyone's just general passive perceptions so that I don't have to keep asking you for them?
15.
13. Euan's was 12, and
Yeah.
Matthew 9.
Matthew's 9.
Yeah.
Though Matthew is successfully stealthing behind us all.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
I guess I turn to Craig's character
Hello.
and ask him, what be your name, child?
Eidolon, yours?
Father Markusar.
More just raises an eyebrow at the father.
Yeah.
Is
you'll
that
have-
a
you'll
common
have experienced
title?
the father.
It's a common title within our community.
He legitimately looks perplexed at that.
Because you'll have never experienced a priesthood before, will you, Craig?
I don't know what religion is. What the frickety frack is a religion?
Are you actually asking what's the religion?
It's more there's very visible confusion when you explain that Father something is a common title.
And what brings you to this area of Elarant?
I'm traveling. I need answers, but that's all. I'll be heading home as soon as I can.
If it's answers you seek, perhaps I can interest you in the old faith. through the old faith.
Are you trying to sell something to me?
I'm simply stating that through the old faith, all answers will be given.
You're trying to sell something to me, aren't you?
No, sir, I would not do such a thing.
He increases his pace ever so slightly, just to walk a few feet ahead of the MLM Dragonborn.
I make no effort to keep pace.
Just kind of saunter along.
Yeah. I'm just vibing. I'm not doing anything.
I'm
no
keeping
rush.
an eye on mainly Wulfric to make sure he doesn't essentially aggravate the guards would be the first bet. I don't think he looks like he will, but it's more just in case.
So, Wulfric, you're obviously the first to kind of make your way up to Bellamy Manor. You kind of trek yourself up the hill, up past the stone walls, and towards the front gates of the manor house. As you kind of get up there, you kind of see the kind of collection of guards head through the front doors and take the woman inside. Though as you kind of get up to the kind of front porch of the manor house, you're not really met with any resistance. None of the guards that stay outside really stop you. Obviously the doors are closed, but they don't really question why you're there. They don't treat you with any hostility. They actually they give you a bit of a side eye. One of them gives you quite a pleasant nod, and they kind of just more maintain their posts as you kind of approach the front door of the manor house. Eidolon, you're kind of just coming into the kind of front courtyard just as Wulfric, you can kind of see him approaching the doorway. Again, you see the guards giving him no sign of hostility at all. Followed then by Markusar and Ranaagash. I imagine you're kind of keeping just a little bit of distance.
Getting to the courtyard, that would be when I would wait a few paces until Markusar catches up.
Give me a perception check, Craig.
Oh, hello. That's a thing I'm good at.
We'll
Hopefully.
see. That is a thing you're good at. So as you kind of stop in the courtyard to obviously wait for Markusar, watching him kind of saunter up the hill, you see, probably following him at maybe kind of 10 feet, properly keeping his distance, is a half-orc man. The same kind of garb, the wolf hood kind of over his head as the man that the woman bumped into in the market square. He's almost kind of in a similar vein as you're tailing Wulfric. He seems to be tailing you, or at least tailing Markusar.
I wouldn't raise any arms or make any noise, but instead I would simply lock eyes with the half-orc who's following us. Less in a sense of, what the fuck are you doing, and more in the sense of, we know you're there.
Just come and say hi, dude.
If Eidolon is looking behind him, I imagine Markusar would see that and I would turn as well also.
Sort of like raise his hands and give a look of, you got me. And then, sort of tentatively walk forward and sort of, apologies, gentlemen. Didn't mean to interfere with this. Just trying to see what's going on here.
Are you involved?
No, but maybe I have some expertise that might help.
Well, it looks like all three of us are in a roughly similar boat to gestures towards the brazen man approaching the steps.
Which
What
they'd
does
they'd hear.
What's the deal with him?
He seems a brazen.
I caught that.
More than anything else, we let what happens happens. By the look of it, the woman isn't in danger, but there's a chance she could be.
Because of, or in spite of what he's about to do. Did I phrase that right?
Eidolon shrugs.
Yeah, Eidolon would just turn around after turning his attention back to Wulfric back to you and just...
Wulfric would be standing there impatiently tapping his foot, waiting for someone to answer the goddamn door, and he would turn around and he would see these three talking. He can see them. He probably can't hear what they're saying, but he can see them, and he'll recognize them from about the marketplace.
Yeah, from their kind of body language and from their gestures, they're quite intently and quite keenly watching you. They're still obviously keeping their distance and seeing what's going on, but they were quite clearly probably tailing the woman in comparison to just tailing the woman, or they'd be on the porch with you. Is the three curious parties.
Wulfric locks eyes with who he considered to be the shiftiest of the three, the Dragonborn, because he's the one who caused the woman to freak out, and he goes... and then turns around.
Turns his attention to the door.
Markusar returns a very wide and delightful smile.
He seems friendly.
So, the four of you will be able to see, although obviously the three of you are kind of more watching over kind of Euan's shadow and his over Wulfric's shadow and his stature. You will be able to see the doors open, with probably a kind of middle-aged, kind of mid to late 30s half-elf answer the door.
Male or female?
Male. Dressed in probably more noble attire. He's not a servant, he probably lives here. He's got quite dark hair, quite dark eyes, a very kind of pointed face, and very much more elven ears than half elven ears, with his hair kind of slicked back and kind of kept in a half ponytail. As he kind of more looks up at Wulfric, as he is quite short. Can I help you at all, sir?
Greetings, lad. The girl that lives here has escaped again, and from what I've managed to glean from the people of the town, this is a regular occurrence. Is she being kept safe here?
She will probably be returning to her room at this point, yes.
Can I speak with the man of the house? Can I speak with the person who owns this house?
You can speak with my father, yes. Most people who come here do.
Very well. Does he... I have the symbol on my chest. Would he recognize it?
It's not so much that he probably doesn't recognize it, it's more the fact that you can kind of see in his expression that the moment you opened your mouth with this type of discussion, he immediately started to look tired, as if he's had this conversation perhaps 50 times over. And most people just do I'm going to talk to the owner of the house, I'm going to talk to the man of the house, the mayor, and he just gives them directions and leaves.
I kind of get down to his level. Like, is that girl your sister?
No, she's I suppose my father's ward. I've known her since she was a child, though. We pretty much grew up together. Her mother used to stay here.
Is she kept safe?
As safe as she can be. At least with my father in charge.
Are we all within earshot of this conversation?
Nope. You can see, obviously, Wulfric's having a conversation with this kind of young gentleman, but you obviously can't hear what's going on.
Turn to Eidolon and Ranaagash and like...
You haven't noticed...
Do you believe it's going well?
Strange occurrences, have you, besides her fits of madness? Anything that perhaps noises in the night? That kind of thing?
Nothing than one of her episodes, usually.
How frequently are these episodes?
You seem quite concerned.
The concern of the innocent is usually my wheelhouse, yes.
You kind of see him more give a side eye to the two guards that are standing side by side to the door. I think you should probably come in, sir.
Thank you very much.
As he kind of steps aside to kind of let you obviously pass into the entrance hall.
I would turn to Markusar and Ranaagash, and more after my gaze comes back from Wulfric entering the house. Well, if all of us are curious about following this up, we can either choose to follow in a brazen comrade's footsteps, or follow this to its root source. I believe it was mentioned that she was once the daughter of one of the farmsteads nearby. We can either visit one of these farmsteads, learn what we can, then return with what we will then know, or, as said, we take it in reverse.
I believe Wulfric Actually, I didn't catch his name. I believe that he has it covered. We might be of better use elsewhere and speak to the farmstead.
I agree.
Did you catch which it was?
Did I catch which was?
You're supposed to be taking notes, Paul.
Yeah, Paul.
I
that's
have been
me
taking
could've
notes. I
written
just
down.
that one thing I missed.
What was her name?
Her last name was... Oh.
Her name is Elsha Delvin, so it's like a Delvin farmstead.
So it'll be
Oh,
where
oh.
the Delvin farm is.
On the Tenon map that we have on Roll20, Roseheld Farm is the family farm of Adam Delvin.
Ah, well, we'll go there then.
Big brain, galaxy brain.
Yes. Imagine using the information that's provided for you.
I know, it's weird, eh?
I would look at Markusar disappointedly, though not exactly sure why, as he did just give me the answer to my question. And how would we know the? I guess I would flag down the first person to walk by,
Yeah, so...
or head back to the marketplace.
Are the three of you heading kind of back down towards Marketplace?
I would be. I've got my lead. I'm taking Wulfric's point of approach. He got his lead and he went for it.
What about you, Ran? Are you kind of following them, or are you kind of... You can see the kind of half-elf standing in the doorway, looking kind of strangely at the three of you, because you are obviously travellers coming to his door. Are you going to kind of head in, or are you going to head with Markusar and Eidolon?
I'll head with these two. Don't want to hang around and, you
Be
know.
the weird, creepy half-orc outside
Yeah.
the man's house.
I mean, you could have gone up and be like, hey, can I come in too?
I know that guy. We drank at the
I'm
pub.
fine.
Cool. So, splitting the party.
Wow, I
On the
think that's
first-
record time.
I think that might genuinely be record time. But no, I kind of like your thinking.
Well, Euan's already going into the manor house. He'll learn what he can from whoever owns this place. So if we go to the farm, learn what we can about her upbringing, why she eventually had to go. Maybe her mother's death wasn't as simple as it was made out to be. We then come back with our info. Talk to Wulfric if he's willing to talk to us. He doesn't fucking know us.
It's like, hey, we've also been investigating.
Wulfric's on the fucking warpath.
I hope we don't come back and he started
The
fighting all the
the
guards.
manor's decimated. It's on fire.
There's a lot of
people
guards.
are
There's a lot of
dead,
guards.
Heads are
We
on
don't want to come back
pikes.
and Euan's already dead. That would be unideal.
It would be very unideal, not gonna lie.
We also don't want to come back and Euan's imprisoned.
It just comes back and it's M's like. You just come back and M's like, Euan, would you like to describe your new character?
So, Euan, introduce this new character.
We see like the slideshow as we're leaving the town. It's just Wulfric in jail.
So yeah, we'll kind of split it from there. I'll deal with kind of Euan first, since we are at Bellamy Manor just now, and then I'll kind of hop to you three. You kind of head in. The kind of half-elf looks, he kind of takes a stop back, closes the door and kind of turns to you with a kind of confused expression on his face. The three outside, were they with you?
I've never seen them before in my life.
Seem like an odd bunch then.
Yep. That's certainly one way I'd describe them.
I do give my apologies. I don't particularly enjoy speaking when my father's men are in earshot.
I mean, they are on his payroll, so if you're going to say something against him...
Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Caradoc Bellamy.
Caradoc?
Caradoc. My father wanted to give me an elvish name after my mother.
Is your mother around?
No,
I apologize.
it's alright. My stepmother is mostly agreeable, and my sisters are also agreeable. Most of the time. I couldn't really
Are-
ask for more.
Were you his first child?
Yes, my mother was his first wife. She came from a forest up north somewhere. I don't actually know the name of it, if I'm being honest. I haven't really left Tenon. He married my stepmother quite some time afterwards. My sisters are of her instead of my mother.
How many sisters do you have? How many of them
I have two. They can be quite a handful.
are they much younger than you?
About 15-20 years. Any sisters yourself?
Several. From a big family.
I never particularly wanted a big family myself.
I didn't have a choice.
I suppose I didn't either.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir here, lad. Firstborn of 7 kids.
I am glad I only have 2 siblings. To a more serious discussion, though.
Yes.
As much as I do not like to speak of it. You wish to know a bit more about Elsha, yes?
Yes.
As I said outside, I grew up with her. Her mother used to work here in the manor house, and when she had Elsha, she used to bring her here all the time. Until her episodes became a bit more frequent, I suppose. I never really knew much about them. She would tell me things occasionally, but I guess I never really understood. I still don't really. It was childish games, usually, but she would tell me that during her episodes she would be able to see things. About people she'd never seen before, about events, places she had never visited. It was, for someone trapped within the walls of a manor, and now within the walls of Tenon, it was nice to see the world through her eyes. My father took her under his care about 6 years ago, not long after her mother Mary died.
How did her mother die?
She died in childbirth. Elsha's younger brother. There was complications with the birth, and her mother did not survive.
Were you present?
No. Though shortly after the birth, I don't think Adam was present either. Her father. Apparently he blamed Elsha for the death and stormed out. My father also left that day. When he returned to the manor, he returned with Elsha. And Adam had patronage, a partnership with the local tavern. I don't particularly know what happened. I want to make sure she's safe. I want to make sure she's okay. And I can't.
That's why I'm here. You don't think that your father has anything to do with her visions getting worse? Her episodes getting more violent?
I could not say.
Insight check.
Yep.
He seems pretty forthcoming, but I'm still insight checking him. It's the same as the first time.
Wow, you and your rolls have just been rather
Roll
You-
20 hates me, you will learn this.
Yeah, that is kind of consistent for his roles. You can't tell one way or the other, but what you can tell, at least with regards to how forthcoming he's being, is he has quite a lot of feelings for this woman.
I can tell you care about her.
We used to be really close. Over the years, that's not been the case, at least as much as I would like sometimes. But I get to see her occasionally when I pick up her remedies. It might just be the hopeless romantic in me, or the fact that I will admit I am smitten over her. But I feel there is something wrong.
Do you think you could take me to... Do you know what triggers her episodes? Is it physical contact? It seemed to be a physical contact with that Dragonborn man that caused her to fly into a panic.
I wouldn't be surprised. There has been physical contact sometimes, but she can be completely untouched and suddenly fly into fits of anger, despair, joy sometimes even.
I have perhaps an idea now. If you take me to her, I can converse with her, but I will not enter the room. I will stay as far away as possible, so that we can prevent her from having another episode.
And that's... She may be asleep just now, but that could be an idea.
I'm willing to wait then. I don't want to risk doing her further damage.
It is the last thing I want. Though as you're kind of standing in this kind of entrance hall, upon the top banister, just as you're kind of finishing this part of your conversation with Caradoc, a gentleman, looking very similar to the half-elf, though very much human and a lot older, to the point where the roots of his hair are not black but instead grey. This man kind of leans over the banister, more clearing his throat to announce his presence. Another visitor, I see, Caradoc. Would you like to come to my study, sir?
I've had a very enlightening conversation with your son. I will meet you in the study. And I gestured to Caradoc and kind of like whisper, wait outside. Stuff.
Just kind of the side glance of, be there.
Yeah.
He does kind of give you a nod, though you can see that he is very nervous. You can see almost in his head that he's trying to work out how long his father has perhaps been lingering. As his entire demeanour kind of changes, you can kind of see he was very tall, very straight, very nobly, whereas now he's a bit more enwrapped, he's a bit more enclosed, and a bit more nervous. But as you make your way up the stairs to join the mayor, we will jump to Eidolon, Markusar, and Ranaagash.
This is when the party splits and we have to create two new parties as Euan accidentally starts adventuring with the Lord's son instead of the rest of the party.
As the three of you begin to make your way back down to the market square to try and locate directions to the farm where Elisha apparently grew up, where she was brought up on.
More what, just for an aesthetic detail, more what Ranaagash and Markusar would probably notice is that even for them, who I know to come from, well, Eidolon doesn't know, but from the interviews I know don't exactly come from most civilized places anyway, he still seems to be making comments that still seem like a little bit off, as they're almost obvious things for most people. It's more like he's noting to himself that this is things that people do. If that makes any sense.
Conversations, knocking on doors.
Knocking on doors is a big one. Saying please and thank you is another big one.
Pleasantries.
Could we go back to that same merchant who told us who she was and just ask him again? Where?
Yeah, as you kind of come back
I was
up.
more going to go for the first person we saw, if it was a common
I
farmstead.
mean, everyone in town seems to know, so I just thought the merchant. We have that rapport, you know?
You didn't buy anything.
I do know the innkeep. I've been staying for over a day.
That is true. You have been staying at the inn, although that would only kind of come up if you mentioned it to, the boys.
I mean, if I don't see anybody on the street who I would be inclined to stop, then I would just head into the inn. I wouldn't exactly say a word of that to Ranaagash or Markusar, but if they just appear to be following me, then they'd follow me into the inn.
Would you follow him? As technically when you're coming into the market square, the merchant you were speaking to is kind of more on the opposite side of the street, whereas as you come in, Eidolon almost seems to turn and start heading towards the tavern or towards the inn, to the Esquire Inn.
Suppose follow Eidolon. He seems to be, like, you know, it's kind of his plan to go speak to the farm, so guess follow his lead.
Yeah.
I heard things. I have ears and I have eyes and I use them.
Occasionally.
I'll fail a perception check one day and then you can say it.
So the three of you head into the Esquire Inn. It is still as bustling and as busy as it was, if not a little bit more, with the more unnerved travellers now coming in to take a load off and relax. For the two of you, for Ran and Markusar, you will kind of see a relatively tall woman, quite broad-shouldered, quite curvy, hair pretty much the same as the fireplace, very kind of red on top and then getting darker as the roots go down. Kind of loosely tied into a ponytail, though it's very much falling out as she kind of more darts around the place. Eidolon, you'll notice this, or know this woman as Danica. She is the owner of the Esquire Inn. You've obviously been staying here. You've only been staying here a night, but she's been a woman that you've become quite acquainted with. just because she seems to know the lay about the town. She knows the roads, she knows the forest, she's been here for a while, so she's been quite a good source of information for you.
If she looks busy, as in like tending to customers at the moment, I'll take an empty space at the... I'm assuming there's just like essentially like a stall almost.
Yeah.
Like a table. I'll take a stand there, just light the pipe and wait for her to have a free second.
Cool.
More just gesturing for Ranaagash or and Markusar to do the same.
So yeah, you kind of watch as this kind of woman busies around. Though it's not long before she fills up 3 tankards and kind of plops them in front of the 3 of you, I guess. The kind of foam head spilling over the jug as she more leans an arm against the bar. You look like you're going to ask me something this time, Eidolon.
I rarely come up not to ask something.
I hope it's not as weird as the last time.
No, nothing as strange as that. We're looking for one of the farmsteads. We need to know what direction we're going.
Strange question.
Roseheld Farm? Ring any bells?
Delvin's farm. It does, yeah.
North, south?
You'll want to go across the bridge. Don't go in any of the alleys. Go straight out the northern gates. You can't miss it. It's on the hill outside. Why are you heading there?
I more just like tap the table, look over to Markusar and Ranaagash, just like, so we go back the way we came.
Swell.
There was an incident in the marketplace. More curious as to what's going on more than anything else.
Yeah, I heard.
You know anything?
I'm the eyes and ears of this town. I've been here for... Well, we're not going to discuss that, because then I tell you how old I am. But I've been here for long enough.
And how long has this been going on for?
Since she was born. Nearly 2 decades ago.
There's more just like the hanging silence as he's just like, okay, and?
Not one for conversation, at least. Perhaps drink, then you'll be a bit more agreeable, usually.
He takes a smoke of the pipe instead of a drink of the tankard. More just to prove a point more than anything else.
She kind of has a grin on her face and just kind of shakes her head, more looking at Markusar and Ranaagash, just kind of like, what can you do?
Is there any more useful information about the girl that you could provide for us?
I can tell you a little bit about the family, I guess. Adam, the father, was a frequent patron here, at least for a while. He now favours the Helm's Brew, the tavern on the south side of town. Though they are his partner now, so you can't really blame him.
Is there any reason? Excuse me. Is there any reason why her father wouldn't take care of her, and she would have to go to the mayor instead?
That's a bit of a complicated issue. At least most of it is past in rumours and gossip. I know the rough story, I guess, but a lot of it's speculation. That you have to keep in mind. I don't know everything. I only know bits. It began when Elsha was born. She was a very sick child. It's cost the family a lot of money to keep her from dying. But they were devoted, so they found no trouble in it. None at all. However, as she grew, she began having seizures, episodes. Small at first, but they grew, and quite quickly the family couldn't really cope with it. She would occasionally come in here with her family, and I would speak to the young girl, as you would, and she would tell me stories of things she would see in her dreams.
Anything in those dreams that caught your eye?
Yeah, when she does say that, I would cast a side glance over to Paul.
Not really. She would occasionally talk of lands beyond Tenon in relatively great detail, which was always strange, but books do exist. I thought it would be a possibility that she was quite an avid reader. She did stop coming here though, after her brother was born and her mother died.
Curious.
From what I gather, I'm not too sure how, but the word around town at that time was that Adam actually blamed Elsha for his wife's death. And he was already so keen on partnering with the Helm's Brew that when the mayor offered to take Aisha under his wing, and give him the money he needed for the partnership. Apparently he jumped at the opportunity.
So he paid him to look after his daughter.
That's what people say, yes. Elsha was such a sweet girl. It is a shame. Her older brother, in fact, actually now works at the tavern.
Where is the Helm's Brew? There it is. It's in the opposite direction.
From what I gathered, he actually works there to get away from his father.
Then it looks like his father will have at least some explaining to do on this matter.
Where do you think we would find him now? Would he be at his farm or at the Helm's Brew?
Adam,
Yes.
he'd likely be at the farm.
Especially if his son works at the Helm's Brew to get away from his dad.
He very rarely actually leaves the farmstead these days. As far as I'm aware, he's pretty much given up all duties, and his eldest now looks after the farm.
I suggest we go there first. And if he's not there, we'll try the Helm's Brew for his son. Agreed?
I'd give a curt nod at that. Give a nod to the what would it be called? It would just be bartender, wouldn't it?
Yeah, she's just the owner of the inn, she's just the bartender.
We'll likely be back. As I'd stand up and head for the door.
You
I
do
would
have a
follow.
room here, Eidolon. I kind of expect you to be back.
More just give a light wave over the shoulder as I essentially just swing open the door and head out. If Markusar and when
Ranaagash.
Markusar and Ranaagash actually get out, I would turn to Paul and just say, "You work with nature.
I do. To a degree.
Do you know what's ailing her?"
I can't say I do. It's not anything that I am familiar with.
You have any idea? As I'd say to the half-orc instead.
What plagues it does sound familiar.
I'd raise an eyebrow. It sounds familiar.
Maybe I shouldn't put all my cards on the table right away, but I may have some
If you
unique
know something,
expertise.
say it.
She's not the only one with gifts, shall we say.
Sorry, Eidolon would give a deep sigh, but I'm laughing for that.
That's fair. That's fair.
All right, bearer of great gifts. What's going on?
Don't patronize me.
If you're patronizing us by holding things away from us, then I'll patronize you for doing so.
It's not patronizing, it's safety. You know how people are with these things. They hear you can do whatever you can, and they're like, "Oh, he's a witch. We need to burn him," or whatever. You know.
Reaching for my
maybe
tinder
they don't
box, so do speak.
Some of them little dogs. But yes, you can see things much in the way she appears to be able to. But maybe it's worse for her.
Maybe you'll do best talking to her father then,
Perhaps.
if you at least have an understanding of what's going on.
Perhaps.
She did run to me and still perplexes me. But she might prefer a familiar face.
Yet she did look fearfully at you.
It must be the scales.
Did she say anything of note?
She said, "You shouldn't be here. I have no reason to not be here."
Well, my first question would be, are Dragonborn common to these lands?
Are Dragonborn common to these lands?
They are not. In fact, at least in your experience, you're the only Dragonborn you've seen.
That's a good point. I suppose she was just shocked by seeing a Dragonborn. But
Either that, or she's seen you somewhere else. And I don't mean materially. As I'd give a gesture to Matthew at that.
I'd hedge my bets on that one. I've seen her look panicked before, experienced it even.
And she's definitely not mad.
Not in the way these people seem to think.
I've seen the madness that they consider, and no, she's all there. We're saying this whilst we're walking, if that wasn't obvious.
Yeah, I kind of assumed.
Making our way to the farm.
Just walking and talking.
Walking and chatting, just like the bros do.
Bonding moments.
The barkeep did say she had visions of lands beyond Tenon, so perhaps she had visions of a land of Dragonborn. But that still doesn't explain why she'd be so concerned for me to be in Tenon.
I'll give a raised eyebrow towards Matthew, more to the extent of shed some light, please.
Yeah, this is. Well, you're not supposed to be here. This is it's very standard prophetic talk for. Oh no, things are going bad.
This is the bad place.
This is the bad place, or will be the bad place, if you will.
Perhaps her father can give us more answers.
So what we've learned here today is that she's not mad and bad times ahead.
Sounds about right.
Divination must be fun.
Bad times usually follow where I go.
Maybe she's onto something then.
Alright, so I went for my drink there, but to symbolize that Eidolon was about to go for his pipe, then Markusar said that and he just started lowering it instead. Alright, yeah, walk.
We arrived to the Rose Hill farm.
Rose Hill farm.
Or will we
Rose
hop
Hills.
back to Euan first?
I'm going to hop back to Euan first as he's dealing with the mayor.
Dealing.
Matthew, can you move your
He's
mic
do-
slightly down
he's
so I
dealing
can
with the
also
ape.
hear you breathing?
Still doing that?
Can you
Yeah, that's better.
can you bend the mic away from your mouth rather than like up and down?
No,
You're
it
like, away.
doesn't.
No.
It doesn't go that way at all.
Usually I find
That's
it's better if you keep it like almost pointing to your chin.
Yeah.
There you go.
Because like I don't have a massive amount of space. Let me move it a bit. There we go. Better.
It's like it's like
Yeah, it's
teleport.
There we
It's
go.
like, you gotta be a call center person.
Yeah.
That sounds a lot better. Thank you.
Right,
There we go.
let's-
Oh,
Finally
imagine like a
sorted that.
divination call center. Where it's like you phone in like, hey, I've had this prophetic vision, what does it mean?
Hey, welcome to
Hello.
Prophecy Plus. How may I help?
I made a direct call.
Sorry to bother you.
Hello, welcome to the prophetic hotline. We knew you'd be calling, and we know how to help you.
That's just creepy at that point.
Yeah, so we will jump back to you and we'll jump back to Wulfric. As you kind of follow the mayor up the stairs, kind of through a connection of corridors and into his study. Quite a luxurious room that seems to overlook the rest of the town. He seems to have very much put himself pride of place, as even going into the northern section of town, you can very much see right the way to the northern gates and beyond. He takes a seat behind his desk, kind of set off to the corner of the room quite close to the fireplace, and offers you a seat as well. Not only that, he takes 2 glasses out and offers you a drink also.
I'm fine. I need to remain sharp for my journey.
That is fair, though I usually find 1 or 2 makes you a bit sharper. As he kind of pours one for himself and kind of sits back in his chair. What can I do for you?
I'm here about the girl.
You probably witnessed her episode this morning then.
Episode is a way to describe it. People have episodes, but surely there's something prompting them.
It would be good if I could find out. She is
How long
currently
have you
sleeping it off, however.
How long has she had these? How long have you been treating her?
She has been under my care for about 6 years. I have, I guess, been treating her for that long. At the
6
beginning,
years.
I was able to get small remedies from the local herbalist, though recently I've had to ask for, I guess, stronger stuff.
You never thought to speak to the Citadel to ask for a high priest or even just a wizard's apprentice who might know something about the degree of magical madness?
We have a church here in town. I have privately spoken with the priest there. His remedies, I guess, didn't help her. I have thought about sending word to the Citadel, but I don't the people here are quite suspicious. They will barter and trade with travellers until the cows come home, but they, at the core of it, don't always trust them. I do worry, really, what would happen if they were to perhaps learn the extent of Elsha's problems. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't particularly like what I do. I would rather she be more comfortable.
Have you considered there might be a better place for her than cooped up in a room suffering someone to teach her what these things mean?
If I could find someone, though I prefer her being here than back at the farm. She was not in a good situation with her father, so I was happy to get her away from it.
I wouldn't dream of sending her back there. You're aware of what her episodes do, right?
Yes.
They give her these prophetic visions.
She is somewhat prophetic. She is, though I assume not really aware, she is quite skilled in the art of divination.
A very useful talent.
You would think so.
Were it not sort of violent in its execution?
I believe that's probably due to her frailness as a child. But at least what I aim to do, what I try to do, is I try to make her as comfortable as possible. Though that is not always possible when her episodes are so violent.
What caused her most recent?
I do not particularly know. One of my servants went to attend to her. Went to...
Insight check.
Yep. Speaking the truth. They went to tend to her to give her another dose of her drops, and she freaked out and ran. I ran out of, well, all but one of the most recent remedy that was given to me by the herbalist, and it was not able to be administered in time. Actually, if you are able, I would usually get my men to go and do it, though I usually find it difficult to ask them to, especially after when she's had her episodes. If you could,
I'd happily go to retrieve it.
if you wish for coin, I can quite happily supply it, but if you would be so kind as to collect her most recent dose. It's on the north side of town. It's just a small herbalist shop. I don't know if you've been in town very long. The name of the shop's Hazelnuts, or Hazelnuts Hideaway. She's a relatively pleasant woman. If you say I sent you, she'll know exactly what you're there for.
I will do that most frequently. But I'm a man who... I've been around many towns. Many of them are structured differently, and Tenon does remind me of towns I've been in the past, and I fear I could get lost.
Not from around here, then?
No, Gildenfeld Valley originally.
He kind of raises his eyebrows. Quite far, then?
Yep. Are you familiar with the area?
Not personally. My late wife, not from Gildenfeld, though quite close to the Barrier Mountains. She came from there. I can spare some of my men. They can at least take you to the bridge. You can find your way quite easily from there.
Do you give your son any degree of agency? Because he seems to be quite knowledgeable about the town.
Caradoc.
Yeah. I'm more than capable of defending myself. It's just the directions.
This afternoon he was expected at training.
What does he train as?
Swordsman, mostly.
I'd be happy to, if we were to miss the training, I'd happily train him as well. I kind of point out, I kind of like shift to gesture to the symbol.
Give me... Actually, I'll see if he recognises it first. You kind of more see him squint as he doesn't quite recognise it. It's almost like he does kind of maybe know or recognise it, but not quite.
The name Iron Dragon's familiar.
Oh, I have heard of a few stories of them. Never met one though. A mercenary
in the
band,
pres-
if I remember.
Well, you're in the presence of one now.
Quite a prolific band, if I'm not mistaken.
We certainly are. Like I said, I'd be happy to train him. Sure, he's got potential. He could show me the way.
Give me a persuasion.
Hold on, actually, it's /R, right?
I think so, yeah.
No, I don't fucking feel there. Roll 20. Fuck's sake!
Okay, so you've rolled a 3, a 3, a 1, and a 6.
Yeah,
Euan, Roll20 really does hate you, doesn't it?
Roll20 fucking hates me.
This campaign is just going to be a see next time if Euan rolls above 10.
Yes. Oh my god. Jesus.
I do apologise, but my men is the least or the most I can offer at this time.
No worries. I'll work my way there. Only need to send one with me.
He kind of gives a nod, more stands up and offers a hand out to kind of give you a shake, to give more of a formal gesture.
Shake his hand.
Don't actually think I gave you my name, as he kind of more smirks and laughs. Matthew. And yourself?
Wulfric Reinbrandt.
Pleased to meet you, Wulfric. Again, I thank you for... It's a small request, but it must be done.
It's no worries.
As he kind of steps around from the desk and more leads you to the door of his study, where you can see, as he kind of opens it, 2 guards standing side by side, more at the side of the door than anything else. Caradoc is not there. As he more gestures to one of his men, if you wouldn't mind taking my friend Wulfric here through the town, ideally showing him the way to Hazelnuts to pick up the delivery. As you kind of see the soldier kind of click his heels, give a nod. Yes, sir. If you wouldn't mind, sir, I will take you downstairs and I will show you the way.
I follow the guard.
You kind of just hear Matthew kind of in the background. And good luck, Wulfric.
Thank you. I shan't need it, but I thank you nonetheless.
As the guard begins to lead you through the manor and out into the town, where we will jump back to the boys who are making their way to Rosehild Farm.
Gang. We are the gang.
Rosehild Farm is quite big as you're approaching it from the hill. You can kind of see the silo built upon the side of the house, and a small stables that sits on the outside, and quite a lot of farmland surrounding it that seems to be very well looked after, very well tilled, and a lot of plants are currently growing in it, though you're not too sure entirely what is being grown. As you approach, coming from the kind of the steading from the house, as you're kind of coming up the hill, are 2 men. Well, I say men. 1 man and a younger boy. The man is probably in his late 30s, maybe early 40s, and the boy is perhaps only 6 or 7, as he's kind of running alongside him, trying to keep pace whilst carrying quite an oversized bucket. The older gentleman looks relatively haggard, kind of dusty, shaggy, dark brown hair, and a very well-built body. He's very much a farmer, even down to the clothes and garb that he is decorated in.
Where was this, sorry?
This is just as you're approaching the farm.
Cool.
As he kind of catches sight of the 3 oddities kind of coming up the road, he more kind of, you do kind of see him shuffling the younger boy kind of more closer to him, keeping him more towards his side, stopping him kind of skipping on rocks. As he kind of passes by the 3 of you, more stops you. Can I help you, gentlemen?
I cast an eye towards Ranaagash. You chose to play the high charisma character, Matthew.
I know.
Quiet character, please. Charismatic character.
I know.
I've done a lot of talking already. It's time for you to show it off.
We're looking for what's his face, Adam, right?
Yep.
Adam, what was his? How do you?
Adam Delvin.
Delvin, that was it.
We're looking for Adam Delvin. Is he here?
father's in the house. Why do you want him?
We're investigating.
He kind of raises an eyebrow. Investigating what?
I don't know if you're aware of his daughter's most recent episode, but my acquaintances and I were traveling through and perhaps sticking our noses where they don't belong.
You're the only ones to stick your noses where they don't belong. Most people don't care. And yes, I didn't know she had one recently, but I do know of my sister's episodes. He kind of sticks out a hand towards Euan. Thomas Delvin. I'm her older brother.
Take it. Ranaagash.
So you probably won't get much out of my father. He is very rarely sober these days.
So we'll go wherever we're going then.
I will just cut through before the conversation's over. You'd be the one who works at the Helmsbrew then?
No, that's my younger brother, Derek. I mostly man the farm now.
So what, you're essentially in charge more than your father these days?
In terms of running the farm, growing the crop, looking after the sheep, the cattle, the horses, yes.
We're not dealing with an agreeable man, are we?
He's not disagreeable, he's not all there anymore.
I'm assuming we'll work that out when we get there anyway.
Can I ask something?
Go for it.
Looking at the farm, can Markusar... Like you said they grow stuff at the farm, and you said like tending to the cattle and all that stuff. Are the cattle bred for for butchering or for like milking? Can I see like milking sheds or anything like that? What do I see?
They do have quite a large silo, but they don't particularly have a barn or a barn facility that you would usually use for like milking cattle. They have quite expansive fields for the cattle, but more likely than not the sheep's probably bred for their wool. They can be cut outside, but there's a good chance that the cattle are probably bred for their meat.
Markusar doesn't take kindly to that.
If you have nothing really else to say to Thomas, he'll kind of give you kind of more of a nod gesture and kind of let you head up to the house, really.
He has a farm to work, we shouldn't hold him up for much longer.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of gives you I suppose for Eidolon, I suppose this will be perhaps a little bit more common with the kind of nod and the gesture that the door is open so you can kind of just head in. But for meeting three strangers on the road to his farm, it does seem a bit strange that, he does all of a sudden put quite a lot of... Pardon?
He's so willing to let us into his house, and all we've said is, we're looking for your sister.
It seems to be like the air you get from him is it's a case of no one's really cared before to actually come and ask about it or do investigations into it or find out more about her. They've more just seen her as some kind of maddened spectacle and moved on with their lives. So the fact that you guys have actually taken the time to investigate and want to know more about her, he seems very open to just kind of letting you kind of go about it.
Ranaagash, when we get in there, will you continue to talk?
Yes, I can do that for you.
Just make sure you ask the right questions then.
I can certainly try.
Here is the soldier of Eidolon coming out.
I mean, when we get in there, just to say what I'm going to do, whilst Ranaagash and probably Markusar are talking to the man, I'll make my way around the room as nonchalantly as I can, looking at family photos and such. Trying to almost pinpoint a point where it all went wrong.
Yeah, trying to
It's the
find
best way to put
this
it.
is the thing that happened. So as you head in, the farmhouse itself seems to be very well kept. It's kind of very clean, not a lot of rooms, though there are stairs, so you imagine those go up to bedrooms more than anything else. The entire bottom floor is all open plan. It's kitchen, dining, living, all in one, though they seem to have quite a lavish kitchen. Though to probably Markusar's disdain, they also have quite a large pantry where a lot of the hanging carcasses are for their livestock.
Markusar keeps that. He tries to force down that anger and just sort of not paying mind to it, though he is seething underneath.
Angry dragon.
Just trying to remain his like chill visage.
Calm, composed, collected, cool.
Yeah.
The sight you see going towards the living room is quite a well-lit fire, kind of adorned with quite a lot of, I suppose, to Eidolon's benefit, paintings and pictures, portraits of the family.
That's what I needed.
Though sat on a couch, and again, to Thomas's credit, very accurately smelling of alcohol, as a very old and weathered man, with quite a glazed look in his eye, not even turning as the three of you approach and enter into his home.
I'll give a nod to Ranaagash to go first.
Right, before I go, what time of day is it?
It is kind of mid to late afternoon.
Okay, go. Just so I can get my pleasantries right. Afternoon, my good man. If you don't mind, we're here to ask some questions about your daughter.
He kind of more turns, you can kind of see him quite wide-eyed, almost a hopeful expression on his face. Elsha? She's home? Elsha's home?
She's with the mayor, I believe, or wherever they take her.
He more kind of turns back, kind of head in hands. You can start to hear him to a degree sobbing, kind of crying. I miss her. Why won't she come home?
Can I like very gingerly just reach out and like pat him on the shoulder? Like a... Well, I can't promise you that, but perhaps if you give us some information we're after, then we'll see what we can do.
It was that man. That man took her from me.
Mayor.
It was all fine until he came along.
What about her episodes, if you will?
She was so beautiful. You should have seen her. She had this glow about her. God, I miss her.
Understandable.
Yeah, I'll be making my way around the room at this point, since he clearly seems
A bit
out of himself that he wouldn't notice that I would be eyeing up his essentially walls and paintings.
So, obviously you're listening into this as you're kind of doing that as well, Eidolon, so you'll obviously be aware of what's going on.
Eidolon's just confused because he's like, wait, but the rumors said that he sold her, essentially?
As you're wandering around the room, kind of keeping an eye on the paintings, you kind of get a story of this family's life. There is a man and a woman in a few of the paintings. A very younger version of Adam, a lot more full of life. You can see that he is quite a toned, well-built young man. Quite a lot of stubble. Even at one point in one of the photos, he's got like the full, like almost lumberjack beard. Always very thinning hair on top, however. And standing beside him, at least in the early photos, is a very beautiful young woman. And with her appearance, as you kind of see the photos progress, her appearance is very familiar, though it's a much more well kept and perhaps not as thin and as gaunt version of the young woman you saw in the market square that morning.
I take it all these like pictures, they look happy in them.
Yeah. So
there we go.
You can kind of obviously assume the young man's Adam, and then you can assume that the young woman who kind of resembles Elsha is his wife.
Yeah.
They then have photos of him with, or the two of them, with their first son. You can see that Adam was probably quite proud when Thomas was born, as in the pictures and in the paintings, he is the one holding Thomas, not his wife. And again, you can see the progression of the family where their next son was born. You can see Thomas in the forefront sitting on a wooden barrel, and Mary is now, or his wife is now holding their second son. They still look happy, they still look like a family. And then you can see a picture of his wife on her own, as she's pregnant, probably with their third child, fourth child, you're not sure. where she looks a little bit more frail. She doesn't look as full. She still looks quite beautiful, but she looks a bit more skeletal. Still smiling, still hope in her eyes, but she doesn't look as well. Then you can see a picture of the family again, still looking very happy. Mary, or his wife, still looks a little bit better, and she's holding a baby girl. You can kind of see the kind of long black hair, or the kind of short, I suppose, curled waves falling out of the cloth as she's kind of cradling her. Adam in that photo still looks very happy. He's looking very lovingly at his wife and at his newborn daughter. And then you can see probably a more recent painting where Elsha is absent. She is not in the picture. Neither is Adam, and neither is his wife. It is a picture primarily of Thomas, Thomas's younger brother, who you know as Derek, and then their youngest brother, who you saw Thomas with walking down the streets. You can't really picture a timeline as they're all kind of sitting skewed, but at least for the pictures of the first child, or prior to the first child, the second child, the third child, they all look very happy. There's obviously that strange photo or picture of Mary, where she's looking a little bit more gaunt, a little bit more haggard, quite thin, and then there's obviously the picture of the three brothers with their mother, their father, and their sister absent.
I'll let the conversation get back to it then.
You are dealing with quite a, I suppose, mentally broken man, Ranaagash. He seems to be listening to you to some degree, but it's almost very selective. He's only picking up bits of what you're asking, what you're saying, and almost letting it play into his grievances.
I understand you've lost a lot.
I don't understand why she won't come back to me.
Elsha?
He more kind of looks, and you can almost see him try and work out who he's referring to, who he means, as almost in his mind he's getting people mixed up. As he kind of more mutters under his breath, my wife, my Mary, it's his fault she's gone.
What's happened?
I don't remember.
Markusar would like to slide in to this conversation and be like, who took your wife? You refer to he. Who is he?
The mayor, he took her. He took my daughter. As he kind of more
course.
sits up and becomes a little bit more frantic. It's his fault she's gone.
Why did he take her from you?
He wanted her. He took her from me.
Why would he want her?
At this point, you can kind of see his face and expression kind of start to break down as he constantly continues to mutter the phrase, he took her from me, as he kind of more he puts his hands in his head, or head in his hands, and more starts clutching at his skull, almost as if the drunkenness is getting to the stage where it's beginning to hurt.
Is there any container of water in this building? Or did I see like a sort of well or something outside?
You could probably get some from the kitchen.
Yeah, I'd head into the kitchen. If there's essentially like a tankard or container, I'd fill it with cold water. Come back through and just splash it on the man's face. If I have to, walk over to essentially take one of his hands, pull it off, and then splash it on his face.
When you kind of does that, he lets out more of kind of a yelp, a scream, I guess, as it is quite cold.
Before placing the tankard back down on the closest surface and then walking back towards the doorframe to let Ranaagash continue.
As he more kind of coughs and splutters, you can kind of see him come to just a little bit, though the headache is probably still there. As he kind of looks at the three of you, darts back and forth, more widened, quite frantic eyes. Who are you? What are you doing here?
We're investigating the circumstances surrounding your daughter's most recent episode, shall we say.
She has many of those. I'm not surprised that she's had another one.
What do you believe causes her episodes?
Anything, really?
Anything? Are you referring to some sort of trigger? for her?
No, it's anything. More often than not, more trouble than they were worth. More often than not, they led to someone dying.
We're saying he took her away from you, the mayor. Did you not want him to take her?
I suppose one time, perhaps. I was angry. Now I'm not sure. I miss them both. I just wish it could have been different.
More from the door frame, Eidolon would turn around. Are you insinuating your daughter killed people?
You can kind of see with that question, he does kind of get a little bit more heated. She killed my wife. She killed her own mother.
Was it during one of these episodes? And if it was, how did it start?
She told me and my son that I either had to kill my child or my child would kill my wife. If she had not had one of her blasted visions. My wife would still be here.
Vision or not, by the sound of it, your wife would have died anyway.
With that, he takes the tankard and throws it at you. He completely misses because he's still drunk, but it clatters against the wall, clatters against the floor, and kind of rolls quite sadly into the kitchen. Get out!
More with a heavy sigh and a single raised hand, he would step out of the house.
As he kind of turns to Ranaagash and Markusar, and again, more kind of shouting at the two of you. All of you, get out now!
Now, Mr. Delvin, we only mean to assist you.
He kind of stands up quite, I suppose, stumblingly, grabs the nearest thing to him, one of the pictures on the kind of mantle, and lobs it at you. Again, it completely misses.
Well, can I make an attempt to catch it?
Give me a dex save. So
What's my
dexterity
dex?
saving throw. So
Okay, that's not plus anything.
Yeah, flat roll.
nice. As it kind of goes astray, almost clattering against the floor, you just manage to grab it, just the corner of it before it hits the stone surface.
I just pick it up and place it very, I don't know what you'd describe it as, just like delicately, like on a mantelpiece or a table or something like that, just like, your memories deserve to be remembered. And I'll just leave it there. And then I'll step out.
And Ran, what about you? After you screamed
Yeah,
at you.
I'm not hanging around either.
I'm out.
Yeah.
Just that gift just fade away.
As the three of you are now outside of the homestead, where you can hear quite a clatter now coming from inside, most likely Adam getting up from his chair and stumbling around the house.
So the only question left now is, what did the mayor want from his wife?
I suppose that's a question for the mayor.
And I think someone will already be asking those questions.
Shall we go see how well he's getting on?
We barely know him.
I barely know you.
Touché. As he'd start making his way back to the town.
It's like, you have a point. No, you have a point. Let's go.
And in that case, what do you do exactly?
Yes, give me, sorry.
Yes.
I am a father of the green hand of the old faith.
Whoosh.
Yeah. It's like, I imagine you say that in a sense that it's supposed to be understandable. But as M describes it as, it does just go.
Markusar is not surprised that it would go over your head, as we are a small, little known community. Quite separate from society.
Yeah. So you obviously can overhear this as well, Matthew. The only part you'll have actually recognised from that is of the old faith.
Mm-hmm.
As the old faith is something, the worship of the She is something that quite a few orcs still observe. So in Elarant there is the new faith, which is comprised of a collection of gods of my own creation, and there is the Old Faith, which primarily is revolved around the She, who is a nature spirit, who primarily has the kind of laws and rules of equivalent exchange. Paul is of the Old Faith, so he primarily worships her, believing that you should only give you should only take if you can be able to give back. Though his sect is a little bit less well known than some of the other ones of the Old Faith that are present in Elarant.
Eidolon would turn to him in that case and just say, "While we have time before we get back to the manor, would you mind explaining what any of those words mean?"
Well, our community, the Green Hat, believes that nature should be held most important above all, and we give back to nature for all things that she provides for us. We're quite a loving and caring community.
And father of this, you're in charge of it?
Only recently.
Seems strange. Leading a, albeit small community, yet you don't appear to have one with you.
I've left them in the good hands of my first brother, Dolhoran.
And are they all more just gestures up and down at you?
If you're referring to Dragonborn, no, they're not. We're made up of all walks of life, as she would be pleased.
And you?
What about me?
What do you do?
I travel, I talk, I insult people most of the time, you know? Whatever gets by, whatever keeps me going, whatever.
I'd like to see that last one more often.
Well, there are times when you maybe pass on that, when people are in alcoholic stupor and mourning
Oh no,
their
I'm not
wife.
referring to what happened before. I'm more referring to in general. I find it quite amusing.
Ah, well, I can certainly try. It's not something you can just summon at will, you know? You have to think about it, and then it comes to you, but I'll see what I can do.
I'll give you a laugh for that. So what? Do you have a home?
Forests of Maya.
Doesn't ring a bell.
No, didn't think so. It's a fair trek from here.
You'd more see him give a slightly wide-eyed expression for a second and then continue about his ways.
So, are we heading
So you'll be heading
last?
back through the northern gates, back into Tenon itself, almost heading towards the mayor's manor to try and locate your, I suppose, abrasive friend.
Friend is a
Said
very
a-
loose term at this moment.
We've said abrasive and abrazen so many times.
I wouldn't say abrasive if I'd just say abrazen.
Yeah, I got the wrong one.
He just goes for it.
As you're kind of coming into the northern section, kind of coming past the kind of churchyard, through the kind of stone and thatched houses and towards Tenon Bridge. Coming across the bridge, you can kind of see the hand gestures of a town guard as he's probably giving him the last few directions to another location. You can see the aforementioned abrazen comrade. As Wulfric, you kind of part ways with the town guard and turn to see the strange shadows you had as you approached the mayor's house, coming down the street.
I just keep walking forward. I'm like, oh, it's you lot again.
You seem to be tracking after the same thing as us, so...
I don't believe we're formally introduced.
I do not believe we are.
I extend a hand and introduce myself as Father Markusar.
Wulfric Reinhardt, and he shakes your hand back. Would any of them know? Would anyone? I have the symbol.
Technically, no.
I wouldn't, but what I would do is I would begin to outstretch a hand, see a form of insignia, and then I would give a salute which would be immediately recognizable as a salute of respect, but not one that you'd recognize. As it's more just arm behind the back, single stomp of the foot.
He
Right.
is not so much a mercenary man. You kind of get the sense that Eidolon, or this man, is a bit more of a soldier. But he he knows that you are someone to be respected.
You can tell wherever you've been enlisted that they've taught you well.
I never got the chance to be enlisted, but I always give respect to other people serving. As you'd also see if you do look at them, there is a symbol on... It looks broken, it looks battered, but there's the remnants of a symbol on his, what's left of his armor.
Serving is an interesting word for what I do, lad.
He would give you a chuckle at that. I'm very familiar with untraditional methods. As instead he would then outstretch a hand.
He shakes your hand. What's your name?
Eidolon.
And yours, Wolfskin.
Apologies, gentlemen. Where are my manners? I am Ranaagash the Bastard.
That's quite a name. Your mother gave you that.
Eidolon would start, like, loudly laughing at the bastard.
What can I say? Subtlety is a foreign concept to orcs.
So, what are you doing?
I am, on the mayor's request, getting medicine for the girl.
Well, would you appreciate knowing what we've learned?
Because you've been investigating as well, yeah. Tell me what you know.
Brief rundown. From rumors in town, we were able to decipher that the girl was more sold to the mayor more than anything else. Though, when actually visiting the man who, well, her father, it was odd, to say the least. Ranaagash spoke to him.
I did. He's a broken man, overcome by grief and alcoholism. But that's not unique, but as far as useful information goes, I can't remember where I was going with this sentence.
Say that in character?
Yes, I'm rolling with it.
Ranaagash would say, I don't know where I'm going with this sentence.
He's all intelligence and no wisdom.
How much is your
So,
wisdom?
yeah. It's only 9. Not too bad.
I
yeah.
see 9.
Something about a girl killing her own mother? Something about that. But
The girl
again,
seemed to have prophetic visions, saw that the birth of her youngest brother would kill her mother. Father wasn't willing to accept that.
Yeah,
That's the one.
I heard from the mouth of the mayor's son that the wife died in childbirth, and that the mayor took her in 6 years ago, has been caring for her, has considered speaking to the Citadel.
One specific suspicious detail, only one really.
Yes.
The mayor seemed to want something from the man, primarily his wife. At least that's what I could glean. I don't know the rest of what's going on, but just to say something doesn't exactly sit right on that. The man was insane, he was broken, but he seemed determined that the mayor had taken his wife from him. Not just his daughter.
I feel like the only person who can answer our questions is the mayor himself.
Right, I'm gonna collect the medicine, and we'll go back to him, and we'll do what needs to be done. Though
What do
you
we feel
understand,
needs to be done?
now you understand, like, all of you listen, right? If we're gonna operate as a team, you need to, we operate by my strategy, alright?
Alright,
the
old
way.
man.
I'm 34.
what
I'm
might
not
that strategy
dead.
be?
Violence.
We can fix that if you'd like.
Violence is a secondary option. We try to talk to him, and then if he's clearly done something wrong, we try to hand him over to someone. But if that doesn't work, we cut the bastard's head off.
I'll be completely honest with you, sir. I didn't realize there was another option. I didn't exactly take you for walk in and chop his head off on first sight.
I had a mentor. He used to say to me, he'd sit me down and say, "A fight with a beast is inevitable, lad, but a fight with a man can be prevented.
Wise words.
He was a wise man.
With some men, you're not as lucky.
I've got to get to this. Hazelnut's hideaway. It should be right there.
As we just so happen to reach there right at that moment.
Turn the corner. Yeah, as you kind of turn the corner, it is quite a very obvious building. As it's kind of tucked away round an alleyway where the smell kind of gets you a lot faster than the sight of the building does. Where it is very overgrown. There's a lot of plant life here. You can see through like the kind of wooden windows that there is a lot of plant life even growing in the store, twisting around quite a lot of bookshelves from what you can see. As the sign for the door is not branded in iron or through liquid metal, but more roughly carven over a more log entryway. That is quite short, so most of you will probably have to duck. Saying Hazelnut's Hideaway in very broken, kind of scratchy letters.
I enter, I stood my head, pushed the door open. Hello.
I'll remain outside.
It's quite a claustrophobic wee shop, and the kind of walkways and corridors are quite narrow. As you kind of go in and give your greeting, you hear quite a small voice kind of calling back to you. Hello? Give me 2 seconds, I'll be right out. I hope this one doesn't explode.
I'm here on behalf of the mayor.
I'll be out a little bit faster then. As you kind of hear, not an explosive noise, but more of a poof, and then ow!
Are you okay back there?
Yeah, I'm fine. I need this. Then you kind of just hear glass and some shards kind of breaking as some stuff topple. You can hear some books being knocked from shelves. Even the three of you kind of standing more in the doorway can very much hear the kind of calamity now occurring within the shop.
Are you okay, ma'am? Do you need help?
No, I'm fine. It's just up. And then you kind of just hear you hear something being pulled, and then you hear the bang, bang, bang clatter. Ow! Why did I put it up there? Right, I'll be right out.
Coach, are you sure we're at the right place?
This is where I was told was the correct place.
You hear an exasperated sigh from outside the building.
As kind of dancing and kind of weaving her way through several of the corridors of books and plants is quite a small forest gnome.
Exactly what I expected.
That's adorable.
Like Bun kind of popped up, almost like a pineapple-esque, still twigs and leaves sticking out of it. She has quite a lot of, I would say, soot marks against her face where the kind of poof probably happened, but it's not black soot, it looks more purple with almost specks of red and yellow in it. You can kind of see that she's clearly had goggles on, as there's like goggle markings around her nose where the powder's got stuck. As she kind of just comes out, "You're not who you usually sends."
I'm doing him a favour. I'm part of an investigation. Can I ask, what are the specifics that go into the medicine? What kind of is it? Is it like a pain relief? What does it do?
Well, it depends which one you're talking about. Because I've been looking after Elsha now for probably like 19 years.
What is how many different medicines has she had?
About 6 or 7.
What does the most recent one do?
Well, she's taking 2 at the moment, at least to my knowledge. Though he's not actually asked for much of the recipe of the first one in a very long time. To which case, the three of you can actually hear this conversation. She is quite a shrill voice, and obviously the door is open, so you three can hear this as well. The one that you're here to pick up is a mixture of Johnswort, Devilclaw, and Ginger. It helps with scent. It mostly helps with her headaches and helps pause her episodes, helps her sleep better, calms the nerves, and makes her fall unconscious. Makes her easier to deal with, I guess. I don't particularly like making it, but...
What does the first one do?
The first one's just made from poppies. It helps her sleep. When she was younger, a lot of her visions came from her sleeping. So we devised a remedy, myself and her mother, to help her sleep better. It induces a deeper sleep so that she doesn't have them. Although, as I said, the mayor's not asked for that in months now.
Was her mother an alchemist?
She wasn't an alchemist, she's more of a florist. She knew some things, she didn't really know what to do with them. Actually, when she first came to me for help, she was actually giving her daughter poppy seed, which nearly killed her. So I had to fix that. Again. For like the 4th time.
Have any of the other medicines got strange side effects?
I mean, most of them. They are more herbal remedies, they tend to have more side effects.
What does her current medicine do in terms of a side effect?
It's quite hard for her to digest food. She can't take in nutrients properly, that kind of thing. At least if she's given too much. It's okay in small doses, like occasionally, but
what about an entire branch?
Oh, that's how you take it. As she kind of fiddles through this kind of sackcloth pouch she's got, and she pulls out like a bundle that is about this long, of different twigs and twines wrapped into and twined together, almost fused together.
When did he last have to pick up an order?
He picks up an order maybe every 2 or 3 days, and I give him maybe a month's supply.
I'm keeping an eye on Markusar this entire time to see if any of this appears weird or strange to the druid of the party.
Does it appear strange to me? Could I do?
I will give you a nature check with advantage. So obviously, D20 roll twice.
I'm trying to just. Yeah. Well, actually, I need to figure out the /R.
To top Walt's face, so like there would be eyebrows.
20 KH1.
Yeah.
D20 to KH1.
Yes.
It's funny that he comes every 2 to 3 days.
Unnatural 20.
With that, she doesn't seem to be a druid that you're very aware of. But this young gnome does very much seem to be a druid, quite an expert druid, at least in terms of herbology and alchemy. She seems to know what she's talking about, and the recipes and kind of medicines that she's been suggesting and giving to Elsha, are in line with treating someone with, for example, manic episodes or insomnia. However, they obviously wouldn't deal with the prophetic side, so they're not stopping her having visions, they're more preventing the side effects of her visions.
Yeah.
I have a question, right? You are a druid, a very expert druid and alchemist.
I wouldn't say that, but I'm the only one here.
What? I presume she's handed over the
Yeah, she'll
medicine.
have handed it over to you.
I hold up the bundle. What would happen if a person took this entire bundle in the space of 2 to 3 days? You said this was a month's supply, correct?
Yeah. If you're taking it in 2 to 3 days. Well, I know what you're insinuating, and I don't like it, but I know there's nothing I can really do about it. But if someone was to take that in such a short space of time, you're damaging them. They can't think straight, they won't be able to sleep, they won't be able to eat, they won't be able to digest properly. They're essentially eating themselves from their own madness.
I put it in the bag. Tie up the bag. Thank you. Your cooperation has been greatly appreciated.
I care a lot for the girl. Her mother and I were good friends.
I don't doubt that for a second. It's not your work that has caused this. It's the exploitation of it. I turn around, I open the door, I stoop out, I look at the 3 of them and go, he's been overdosing her.
You kind of just see,
Why on earth
as you
would
kind
they
of
do
open
that?
the door wide, the three of you watch as she's now clocked that someone else is kind of here and obviously been listening to the conversation. She just kind of like waves at you. You can kind of literally just see the top of her head and her arm like over the books, just waving at the three
She's
of you.
adorable. I love her. Oh, she's so good.
Thinking that this would be a common gesture to these people, in that case, I'll give a similarly enthusiastic wave back.
I'll
As I would then turn back to Wulfric and just say, "So, what now?
We go back. We speak to the sun. We speak to him.
The sun?"
The son is very much against what his father has been doing. The son cares deeply for this girl, and he wants what's best for her, unlike the father, who is very clearly drugging her out of her fucking mind.
What, you mean Caradoc?
Yes,
As you kind of just see the small head poking from behind the door. Hi!
yes, that's who I mean. Hello there.
I'm not saying
Hello,
hi to you, I said hi to you.
no.
I'm saying hi to everyone else.
Okay.
Hello?
hello, child.
Greetings.
I'm not a child, I'm probably older than you.
We are all children of she.
You're what? You're a dragonborn? You're probably what? Maybe early 30s?
I actually don't know what I wrote down as my age. Correct. I'm early 30s. How might you know that?
Your scales are still quite shiny. You don't have much in the way of your horns.
I can feel the grey hairs forming, so if you excuse us, Hazelnut, we have to get going and stop this poor pathetic girl from getting drugged out of her fucking coupon.
You would at least have another month before you got another grey hair.
Do you still like her, Euan?
I'd more just tap Wulfric on the shoulder and start walking in the other direction.
Wulfric,
Stoic.
keeps walking. Goodbye, Hazel. Thank you very much for your help. We will be going now.
Bye!
Goodbye.
As she kind of waves you off down the street.
If Wulfric
And-
catches up, Eidolon would just lean over and just say, "She really got to you, huh?"
That is the weirdest fucking woman I've ever met in my life. And then-
Eidolon would look up on Wulfric's head and see if he can start seeing any grey hairs coming in.
You would probably see a couple.
Yeah, like
He
Yeah,
has
she might
lived
have
a
a
shred. And Eidolon would probably hear him mutter, because you've got a decent passive perception as they're walking away. What is it with my bloody life and florists getting involved in it?
Oddly intentional.
so.
Remember, we have questions before we start swinging.
Yes, I know this. Right, I'm the
Just
one who
before-
established this rules. I'm the one who established
Just
these rules.
before the mayor ends up being a florist too.
Hazel got him quite heated. Turns out, gnomish insults he doesn't know quite how to take yet.
Those gnomes, man, they really get to you.
They know how to
Why
get under the
specifically
skin.
gnomes?
You know what they say? The shorter you are, the closer you are to hell.
That gnome was getting real close then.
That no.
Wulfric was a few sentences away from sending her there himself.
You're going to the 9 hells, Jimbo.
So,
That was a pleasant reprieve from the seriousness of the drugged up situation that's going on right now.
Right.
So, as you begin to make your way through the streets back towards Tenon Bridge and then obviously towards Bellamy Manor, you kind of break the corner from Hazelnut's shop, and walking towards you are 4 guards, 4 of the townsmen. One looking a bit more, I suppose, bulkier than the others, though they're not particularly looking to walk past you as they stand and block the way for the 4 of you. You can see
I'm
the 3
sorry.
smaller men do have hands on hilts.
I'm sorry. I apologize, gents. We have to get the medicine up to the mayor's house. So if you'll excuse us.
It's alright, we'll take it and deliver it after we... Well, there's no easy way to put this, gents, but you're under arrest.
don't have time for this.
Right, I knew this would come to it. I unbuckle my great axe and I swing at his face.
Cool.
I'll lean over to Ranaagash and say, wasn't he the one that said?
That would be correct, yes.
I bring it out and I'm like, lads, you're towing the fucking line here. Back off.
Eidolon would start laughing before taking the sword off of his back.
It's always fun when they don't come easy. As you see as he also pulls a sword from his back.
How close was I to him?
You're still about maybe 15 feet away from him, so you're pretty far from him just now. But with
I was
that,
thinking he was like right up next to us.
No, he's not like right in your grill, he's a little bit far away from you. And with that, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we will initiate some combat.
Oh, this is really fun
Hell
so
yeah.
far. This is really fun so far.
Heated discussions. Euan got roasted by a gnome. But we'll be back in a little bit, guys, so we'll see you after the break.
would sound like.
Wow! Mario! Mario!
No, I don't want to listen to Toad. And I'm really sorry that everyone who just came back from the break had to listen to you and scream in Toad voice.
Oh, we're rolling.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
He
You
literally
should have
did.
told
He
me we
played
were
it.
rolling.
I was going to, but then I thought it was. I couldn't stop you, dude.
Euan, you did it. You did it.
Beautiful. Very professional.
Right, alright. It's
He has to
time
get back into
to
character.
stab some fools, alright? Yep, we're gonna do that.
Right. So, welcome back, everyone. We just needed a short break just to actually stretch our legs for once. Paul also needed to eat. But we're
Yes,
going to hit straight back into combat with the guys fighting the town guards. So I need you all to roll
Never
the
a good
initiative.
If you're fighting the town guard, you've usually done something wrong.
Usually, yeah.
Ooh, that's not good. Oh well.
I'm usually horrible at initiative.
Pog.
There we go.
I rolled a funny high number!
Finally did it. He
Right,
didn't
so-
roll low. Do I really have the only? Am I the only one with a modifier to Dex?
Yes. I'm way too excited about rolling an 18.
No, man. Be it. Like, embody the hype. You've rolled so low this session. You finally got something you deserved.
There's a 19. Did you roll, Matthew?
I did. It's there. It just took a while.
Oh, I need to. It didn't
11.
scroll down for me for some reason.
11.
Fuck, I need to do math now.
11.
Then it's this dude.
Maybe I am the dexterity.
At this point, kinda.
Don't worry, I am the strong.
Together we make martial classes.
Marshall.
I think. What's your con, Euan?
16.
Hey,
no,
we're
no 14.
Hey, we have the same con modifier. We really are just the martial. I'm intending on putting it up by 1 next level, whenever that is.
I'm bumping my strength.
That's a valid opinion. I'm gunning for 3 16s instead of going for a +4.
Okay. So that's everyone now on the. I don't need that because that's a poll. That's now everyone on the initiative order. So coming back,
go.
weapons drawn. First one to act is Eidolon.
Ironically, I get excited over having a higher roll. However, I would take a step forward from the group with longsword drawn.
Yep.
In one hand, like the other hand is left hand, the one that, of course, isn't armored in a gauntlet, almost hanging rather loosely to the side.
Yep.
As I will hold my action for if one of them tries to attack me, I will attack instead of just going forward and attacking. And instead, I'll use my bonus action to expend a key point to take. Is it patient defense? I think that's what it's called. Yeah, it's a patient defense, which means I'll be taking the dodge action as a bonus action. Which means I have advantage. Well, they have disadvantage to hit me, and if I have to make a dex save, I have advantage. But that'll be me. So it's more if someone comes to try and attack me, I will attack back, and
Yep.
attacks against me have disadvantage. As I more just take a step forward, stand ready with one hand tightly gripped on the longsword. For note and for clarity, I have the optional Tashes feature, which allows me to make one weapon I'm proficient in a monk weapon, which means I can make my longsword a monk weapon.
Ooh, nice.
Excellent.
Well, that's me.
So next up is Euan.
Alright. Got my great axe out. Listen, lads, I really don't want to do this. I'm gonna take a swing.
Would you like a nat 20, my guy?
Just give him it.
That would be excellent.
Take a nat 20, my guy. From
Okay, Natural
wherever it
20.
is.
Cool. So Matthew's portents. I was kind of just fixing them there in the background whilst Craig was doing his initiative. They're above his little box. He rolled 2 and a nat 20 before this session. That's him used his nat 20. That is now gone. And now he's got only the 2 left.
Euan just absolutely decimate one of these poor minimum wage.
I
members of
add
society.
everything together and double it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so the way I do critical hits in this is they roll their dice rather than rolling like 2 dice. They roll their dice, add their modifiers, and then double it.
I
That way
would-
they just get better damage. It usually makes for some pretty cool kills and stuff as well. So, for example, Euan there just rolled a 14. That would then double to a 28, which is a pretty sizable chunk out of this guard.
Oh yeah, I would. Can you make me a strength saving throw? And this will be doubled as well. So he takes an additional 6 points of damage. Strength saving throw, please.
6. And then strength save. He is not proficient in these. That's kind of strange. That's also pish. That's a 9.
He's now prone
Cool.
because I swung with my axe at his kneecaps, slashed across them, brought him to the ground, and then I'm gonna bring. Oh yeah, I don't have my extra attack yet.
Oh yeah, you're not 5th level.
Yeah.
Martial class is saddened when they realize they can't do it twice.
Can't attack twice.
The kind of more, I suppose at once prestigious knight is literally brought to his knees before Wulfric.
I'm holding my axe Jack Torrance style, and I'm just looking at him.
Daggers. He kind of coughs. It's obviously quite painful. Though you can kind of see that when you attacked, he kind of dropped his sword. He kind of leans down more, hunches over, takes a breath. You can see him more take a knee rather than kneeling. He grabs a hold of the hilt of his sword, and as he kind of more tries to stand up, he tries to take a swing at you. That's not going to hit you. That is a 15.
That just misses my armor class. Can I flavor him missing?
Yes.
As he swings like towards my lower leg, I raise my boot and stamp on his hand.
Bring him back down.
Don't, lad. I'm giving you this opportunity to stand down.
As seeing their more commanding officer be pinned, they are going to the kind of other guards that are with him, they're going to kind of ignore the 3 of you. As at this point in time you're not so much of a threat, and these guys are quite clearly trained to more target threats. They will both attempt to attack Wulfric. They will both fail, to the point that one of them is a little bit scared.
Can I flavor the misses as Geralt of Rivia style? He steps out, parries their sword, and then like knocks the second striker into the first one with like a shoulder.
Shoulder barge. Wulfric definitely seems to be, at least from what you're seeing in combat, he is definitely a trained and quite a brutal combatant. He has had years of experience. To which case...
I have fought men to the death who were worth 5 of each of you. Back the fuck off.
To which case, Matthew is your goal. Ranaagash, the one who does not fight.
Yeah, I'm just gonna do a mage armor. See how that goes. Leave this for a round, and if things keep going, I'll,
You maybe get
do what I
involved,
need to do.
consider it.
Yeah,
Can't
I'll do
push
that.
the buffer this time.
No. But that's me.
To which case, Paul, what would Markusar do?
I don't know, because it seems like this fight isn't necessarily like it's necessary, but if you need to step in, so with Thunderwave, it's a 15-foot cube originating from you. Is that like you're the center of the cube, or you're the edge of the cube and it's in
You are
front
the
of you?
center of the cube,
Yeah,
I
so
think.
it's like
Okay.
it comes from you and then goes out the way.
Fair enough. Well, I won't do that because it'll target those who are near me. So I will use Thorn Whip on the nearest combatant.
Cool, so it's a melee spell attack.
Yep.
So it's your... There you go. So 7 plus 5 is 12. Your closest one, that would not hit them. As it more
Oh.
bats away at the armor as you're finding the age-old issue of plant overcoming metal armor.
My old nemesis.
For a druid, metal
Oh well.
tends to be their nemesis, yeah.
Yeah. Oh well.
As we're
Um,
jumping, unless you can do anything else.
No, I can't do anything. So I'll just move on to the next person's turn.
As we kind of move on to the final guard, who, seeing and trying his luck, I suppose, at the only other person who has attempted to make an assault, he's going to attempt to attack Markusar. Which will be a 15. Will that hit you?
Sorry, 15.
15.
It will hit me
So,
pretty confidently, actually.
just using this. Actually, probably trying to hand it. That's pitiful damage. You take 5 piercing damage. Oh, 5 damage. As he kind of taking the opportunity as you're casting out your Thorn Whip to more strike you from the side. It will most likely mean that your tunic will need another patch to it, as he tears quite a prolific hole in the side of it.
It's a vibe.
You're used to repairing it every other week.
Yep.
But going back to top of initiative, we have Eidolon.
More just relaxing, taking a rather exasperated sigh, much to the extent of, this is really all they could send to try apprehend this. As I'd more call out to Wulfric. Any help there, old man?
I'm not an old man, but you can cover one of the whelps. I'll finish up my... The leader's on his knees. I'll take one of the other ones.
Eidolon would more sigh, move forward, and just take a slash at one of them.
Nope.
It's plus 5. Okay, does a 23 hit?
No.
Shocking.
Yes, it hits.
I know. As that is 6 damage. As I'd more just move forward, much more relaxed, twirl the blade around, slash forward, and then more just looking at the other guy.
Yeah.
As in not the captain who's lying on the ground. How does he look at all fearful in this situation since his commander's on the ground, or nah?
They both kind of do. They look a little bit more like... Well, being a military man yourself, from your own expertise, you are taught to follow a commander. They give the issuing orders, and you kind of follow rank from that. These guys weren't really expecting their commander to hit the deck quite quickly. That's very evident. And from that, they are now a little bit shaken. They've kind of jumped on Wulfric because he has been the, I suppose, the most threatening, so they're obviously trying to take him down first. But they seem frightened in the sense of they are now very confused. These are guards who are used to dealing with rabble housing of travellers and probably maybe individuals in comparison to groups. So yeah, they are out of their comfort zone.
Then more just twirling the blade back around and gesturing to the one who I've just struck, and then more letting my eyes gaze towards the commander who's currently kneeling in front of Wulfric. This isn't a fight you want to pick. Drop your weapons already.
Are you attempting to be persuasive or intimidating?
I've just cut one of them in the stomach, so I'll probably say intimidating.
Give me a wee intimidation roll. A wee cheeky intimidation roll.
Also, I'm proficient in that, and if I rolled persuasion, I would have had a -2.
That's true. Eidolon's not
8.
persuasive, dude. Yeah.
I have no charisma.
You can start to see that one of the guys almost starts to waver, like he doesn't want to die, he doesn't particularly want to fight, and you guys are definitely not what they were expecting. But you can kind of see that his body, I suppose, if you'd like to call him that, considering his reaction to this, more eggs him on, kind of calling them out for cowardice, to obviously continue fighting with your intimidation not really reacting or getting the reaction you wanted.
Is the guy who said that within reach of me?
Yeah, so the guy who you sliced with your sword is basically like, fuck man, I'm out of here. Whereas the guy next to him, the guy who attempted to attack Wulfric and got kind of booted back, is very much like, no dude, like we're here, we've got a job to do, we're doing this.
In that case, Eidolon would sigh, put his head in his hand for a second, before tossing the sword in the air, grabbing it with his left hand, taking his right hand and just punching the guy in the face.
Nice.
So as in the guy who was egging on his friend to continue fighting.
Are you key pointing or are you bonus action?
I am not key pointing, I'm just bonus action attacking. Because
So
I'm just gonna.
mind-
I have not played a monk before, so I'm refreshing myself. Yeah, I can do that.
Not proficiency bonuses.
Why not?
Because it's
The-
with your... Oh wait, it's with your fucking monk.
Martial arts
Monk.
feature, when you
Yeah,
use
it's
the
the
attack
martial
action with an unarmed strike or a monk weapon on your turn, you can make one armed or unarmed strike.
Strike, strike with your bonus action. You're a monk.
It's fancy monk Shazam. Does a 19 hit?
Yeah.
It's only a D4 at this level?
Yeah, you are a babby monk.
It's more just to clock him in the face for, you stupid motherfucker, you had a chance. As that's 5 damage.
It's nearly the same damage you dealt with the first guy with your sword.
Yeah. So one guy gets a nice cut in his stomach, and the other guy gets a slightly broken nose. As I'd more just give a shrug towards Wulfric as I pass the sword back into my right hand.
Yeah.
To which case, Wulfric, Euan, it is your go.
It's almost an
Captain's
apologetic shrug.
Still on his knees.
I go. Right. You see, and I look at the other soldiers, and I go. You see, in war, in real war, there is a tactic that is commonly used. You cut off the head, and the body will shrivel. There's an 18 hit.
It will, yeah. That's
10
a lot
points
of
of slash.
damage.
10 points of slashing damage.
He is still up. This is not a very clean cut, shall we say?
Yeah, I imagine I was aiming for his neck, but I falter slightly and I hit him in the shoulder and I shatter his clavicle.
Like, you can hear the crunch as, even as you're pulling your axe out, it's not like a pull, it's a heave to almost unlodge it.
I'll look up at them and go, step down or it happens again.
Give me an intimidation. With advantage, because you're fucking cleaving their captain.
No, that's right. I fucked that roll.
I don't think that worked as it was supposed to.
It's because I put the letters the wrong way around.
HK instead of KH.
19.
Cool. Eidolon, if you want, you have the opportunity of an attack on one of them.
If they're just fleeing, no.
As, I suppose 2 of the 3 additionals leg it. So one of the ones that the already kind of shaken and frightened one that was ready to run anyway, runs, he bolts, he drops his weapon to the point where you can hear the metal clatter. Seeing his friend run, the one who took a swipe, a kind of advantageous swipe at Markusar, also legs it. The only one who's there seems to be the stubborn one that Eidolon you clocked in the face.
I would give a nod of appreciation towards Wulfric.
I'm gonna stare him down and say, "Are you gonna run, or whatever I do next is on you?"
This is the part where you run away.
Oh no, Wulfric Shrek. Definitely, Shrek didn't try to murder people.
I mean,
did.
he kind of did. At least give the illusion that he murdered people.
I remove the axe, I swing it out to the side and create almost like a curve of the blood that flicks off of the blade.
Very cinematic, very pretty. The captain doesn't get back up. Obviously, at this point, he is pretty broken. Though kind of coughing as from his injuries the kind of blood splatters against the stone. He kind of turns to the last man standing, so to speak. Go, boy. No point throwing your life away and mine. As you kind of see the look on the kind of lad's face, is he's a bit more determined. He doesn't want to admit defeat. You can see that in him. Like, he has a fire in him. But when the moment his captain kind of gives the command, he doesn't so much as flee or run. It's more of a, I suppose, an angered, he sheaths his weapon and more gives his captain a nod and leaves.
We've created a vengeance paladin who's going to be hunting us down for the rest of the campaign.
I get to make another enemy stat block. Random guard number 2.
Wulfric kind of gets down, like he rests the battle axe head down on the ground, pommel down, respecting the blade. Leans down to his level, sort of looks at him and goes, "You're not a bad man, but you're working for a man who has performed questionable actions. I don't want this to reflect poorly on you."
The knight kind of gives you more of a chuckle, kind of falling from his knees more back onto his arse. It's more sore staying on his knees. Well, you can be on your way. I can't do much else.
I'll get my... I'm not gonna leave a man to die. Markusar, can you do some healing or something?
Are you sure you wanted to be healed?
This is a noble warrior. He doesn't deserve to die on his knees like a dog.
Very well. And can I cast Healing Word on him?
Yeah.
Is that dark to make a spell?
Nope, it's just a d4. d4 plus mod.
Cool.
Let me double check. I always get the 2
Yeah.
mixed up.
You get 6 points of healing back.
Yeah, it's d4 plus mod. I haven't played a caster in so long, I missed them.
You get 6 points of health back.
You can see that his wounds on his sides, like in his on his shoulder, start to kind of stitch up, but they are pretty deep. You reckon that he will probably need to seek medical attention pretty soon, or he's probably going to start bleeding internally.
Do you know where you can get attention for that?
Back at the barracks, aye.
Then I'd recommend getting there as quickly as you can.
I offer him a hand up.
He gives you a nod but more rejects it. I'll wait until you're out of sight if you don't mind.
Understandable. pride in the line and all. I fasten my battle axe back, or my great axe back, and go, "Come on, lads, we've got someone to confront. Let's go."
Yeah, not much to do but follow.
I pat the guy on the shoulder as we pass him.
I don't need that page anymore.
So someone hasn't liked us snooping around.
I'll say once we've actually rounded the corner so the guy can go about his pride.
Absolutely.
Someone with power, someone who has command over a garrison, and someone who we're already looking into. I wonder who that could be.
It's a goddamn fucking mystery, lad.
Sort of grimaced chuckle as probably may start making our way a lot closer to the manor.
Though if that's
Violent-
the best they have, we don't have much to worry about.
Violence is still the second option. This doesn't change things.
I just hope we continue our streak of no blood.
Well, some blood, but I get the sentiment.
As he more just claps his hand together and just goes,
Metaphorical.
I'm aware, right?
Prayer hands.
bless up.
This is exactly what I was talking about, lads. A fight with a man can be prevented. I didn't have to kill him, so I didn't.
Also, sentiment is appreciated. I don't believe we need a lecture upon it. I think we're all in agreement.
Hopefully we can extend the mayor the same courtesy.
Well, all we
Fine.
have to do is hope that he offers us it.
Haven't encountered people with a moral backbone since the dragons. So it's good to be back in at least stable-minded company.
Dragons?
The Iron Dragons, mercenary band. I was a member. Joined when I was a lad.
Take it that means the insignias of them.
Yes,
Sounds respectable.
we are.
My apologies, I haven't heard of you. I mean no offense by it, of course.
It doesn't sound like you heard of much where you're from, so I won't take it as any offense.
When you grow up with the same 8 walls, you don't know much.
I'd imagine not.
With quickened pace and conversation, you kind of
Conversation more take our minds off of the fact
Yeah,
that
like-
someone just tried to murder us.
friendly murdering amongst friends. You guys head back to Bellamy Manor, and the guards from the front door have disappeared. They're no longer there. And when you go to, and presumably knock on said door, once again, at least for yourself, Wulfric, it is Caradoc who enters. Words. Answers. However, he's not in his, at least from what you've seen, he's not as composed, as he almost seems surprised that it is you four at the door. Surprised, obviously, that Wulfric's there, and then more surprised that the three of you are actually with him, considering he said you weren't with him earlier. As he kind of more looks at you and just, Wulfric? I didn't
Ju-
actually expect you.
Was it your father that sent them?
Sent who? I was actually expecting the captain of the guard. Or at least, as one of them. I sent for them not actually long after you left. It's...
Funny, because somebody sent for them to arrest us.
It's actually been a bit of a mess, if I'm honest.
Your father's been overdosing her.
That's not all. You better come inside.
They enter. Gesture and the rest of them follow.
I don't mean to be overtly suspicious, but when the kid essentially says that, well, he sent for the guard and then follows upon saying, well, of course, we got accosted by the guard, can I potentially make an insight?
Yes.
It's more just base level suspicion of, we got assaulted by the guards and he was waiting for the guards.
Yeah.
That's only a 9. I don't suspect a thing.
Nope. You don't get any vibes from this kid other than he is in some form of concern or distress.
Then yeah, I'll head in with
Is
Wulfric.
The kind of four of you come in, and you can, as you kind of come into the manor and Caradoc kind of closes the door behind you, you can hear kind of a grievous cries of a woman, and as you kind of turn your heads to find the source of the noise, you can see, presumably, well, at least for the three of you, presumably Caradoc's mother. You know it to be Caradoc's stepmother in quite a state of distress, with two younger women trying to comfort her. Caradoc kind of turns to the four of you, though specifically more directing his conversation at Wulfric, as that's who he knows. Shortly after you left, my father went to go and see Elsha.
Yes.
I don't particularly know what happens, or happened. I assume perhaps he was wanting her to divine something. Whatever he saw must have sent him into some kind of panicked frenzy. He locked himself in the room with her. He ordered his guards to stand outside, and no one has been able to get close. Myself, my mother, my sisters, none of us can get close to the doors. The guards, they won't even speak to us. I called for the captain in the hopes that they might be able to...
Well, your captain's currently walking back to the barracks with a broken clavicle because he tried to arrest us.
There was, when you left the manor with one of my guardsmen, the other, he left shortly after too. Perhaps that has something to do with it.
That's probably it.
So when exactly will the mayor have had us accosted for arresting then? Shortly after you left?
Probably shortly after he sent me on that little errand. He probably was just anticipating to arrest me and then arresting you all. Probably didn't anticipate us working together. That's what we've got on them.
Looks like we have to discount guardsmen now.
Right, let's go upstairs and let's get those lackeys to open that fucking door.
I'd shrug back to Ranaagash and Markusar and follow after Wulfric.
As would I.
Wulfric kind of walks up the stairs. Is his mother at the top of the stairs?
No, she's kind of in a drawing room off to the side. Like, she is obviously in some distress that they've tried to remove her as far as they can from the situation.
I'm sorry for the distress, ma'am. We plan to solve this as soon as possible. And then up the stairs.
As the three of you head up after him.
It looks like, we know Wulfric's been in here before, so it's more following after him because, he knows the layout better than we do. We haven't been in here before.
As you kind of pace the manor, going kind of the upstairs, following the kind of upstairs corridors and through the halls, it's not too difficult to find at least the bedroom that would belong to Elsha, as unlike every other door in the manor, it has two men outside of it.
Oh gee, I wonder what room we're looking for. Perhaps it's the room that's heavily guarded. I unbuckle my battle axe so that it's ready to go, and I approach them and I'm like, right lads, you're going to be letting us in?
They kind of see you holding the weapon. You can kind of see that these guys these are more like household guards in comparison.
No, I would have unbuckled it and then
Yeah,
I'd
just
left my arm there for habit.
It's just these guys aren't as well armored. They are not as well equipped, and they kind of more look at you or your group with more of a stutter, in the sense of the mayor said no one was to enter. We're not allowed to let you in.
Yeah, well, the mayor says he takes care of this girl and he's been doing some fucked up shit, so I suggest you get the fuck out of my way and let me into that room.
Persuasion or intimidation? Up to you, Wulfric. What you better in?
I'm better at persuasion.
Angry persuasion.
14.
They don't seem too, pardon me, they don't seem too happy about it, as they are obviously disobeying a command from their superior, though they also don't want a confrontation with well, specifically the four of you in a very enclosed space, they know they wouldn't win that. And you kind of see as they kind of give each other a side glance, they look back and forth, they kind of give each other a... One gives another a kind of hopeful or a hopeless nod, and the other kind of looks at Wulfric and he tosses you a set of iron keys. It's not worth it. You can go in.
I take the keys, I unlock the door. To save this girl, anything's worth it. And I open the door.
The two guards obviously let the other three of you kind of pass by. They kind of more leave the landing to go down and join the family. And as you enter into the room, you see that it is quite a nice room. Like, it is quite a stately manor house room. Like, she has a 4-poster bed, she has a vanity desk, like, she has a lot of nice clothes and a lot of nice things and a lot of nice fineries. Like, she is looked after. Though outside of the pleasantries and outside of the niceness, the sight that you are kind of met with is, I suppose, a bit more disturbing. As, despite it being a relief that she seems to be unharmed, she seems to be untouched, the state that she is in is not so encouraging. As in the corner of the room, kind of tucked away almost under the vanity table, is Elsha. She is cowering, she is scared. You can kind of see that she's even pulled the chair quite close to kind of almost protect herself. And pacing the floor, you can see the mayor, the man you know Euan as Matthew, muttering to himself with his weapon drawn. So he has an ornate rapier by his side that is drawn. He's clutching the hilt. The thing that you guys note as you're kind of coming into the room and kind of observing him is he doesn't seem to have noticed you. And with this, I need you all to make me a perception check. Just as you're kind of observing his more manic behaviour.
I have eyes. And they work.
I have eyes and they work slightly worse, but they still work.
Well, why are you rolling a
I don't think that
3DS?
worked.
Apologies.
So Matthew and Euan, you guys won't see this. Craig and Paul, you guys will see this. Craig, you'll obviously see it a little bit clearer with it being an Nat 20. This is something that your eyes will dart.
Not 20.
Well, yeah, non Nat 20.
Cool.
It's
Dirty
something
20.
that your eyes will almost dart to more than anything else. As from the cuffs of his sleeve and also from the collar of his shirt, you can see what almost looks like purple blotches or purple bruising. Kind of appearing on his skin. Again, he almost seems to be paying the four of you no mind.
Can I just ask, a tall familiar or not?
For you, Eidolon, yes.
Hi.
He's
Like,
going ape
that
shit.
kind of familiar or nah?
Not quite that familiar, but familiar enough.
Like, this is the same thing, essentially. Wulfric, I would just put an arm out in front of you just for a second. More just like, I know like I'm probably standing right next to you, but I'd even get a little bit closer to you.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, do not get close to him.
I'm guessing that he's not well either.
You, like, Eidolon has been very calm for this entire time. Like, even Ranaagash and Markusar would have seen in, like, the house with the drunkard, he was calm. Wulfric, he's not fearful as such, but he is extraordinarily alert as to everything in this room. Like, something has caught him off guard.
Do any of you have the capability to restrain him from a distance?
I do have Thornwood, but I don't know if that doesn't actually restrain.
The best we can do here is either talk him down, or Wulfric, if needed, pin him, get rid of his weapon, and get that girl out of there.
Right.
If it's not what I'm thinking, it's fine. Everything's alright. If it is what I'm thinking, we're not gonna go down that route.
What's the game plan?
I would say that with your Thorn Whip. Okay, so Thorn Whip, it allows you to pull a creature, which obviously means you can entangle them. I will allow you to, if you want to use your Thorn Whip, you can attempt to restrain him. Because obviously it would still, in order to pull him, you would have to restrain him. But
Yeah.
you would basically have to make a spell attack roll. Language.
Yeah.
And obviously it would then do some damage, and then I would make him make a strength saving throw to see if the vine would still entangle him.
In response to Wulfric, I would just say, keep to your philosophy, talk.
Right.
If everything goes wrong, Markusar, do what you did before.
You mean miss?
There's no killing here.
But
He is actually, that's a bit of physical RP. He is cracking his neck.
But Wulfric, if it no longer seems like you're talking to a person, that's because you aren't.
And what do I do then?
Abandon your philosophy and go for the first part of it.
Go for plan B. Last resort. Matthew! Mayor
It's
Bellamy! Are you in there?
You kind of notice as his head kind of cocks to look at you. He still appears to be himself, like his eyes aren't glazed over or anything. He seems to still be aware of at least what's going on now that you've announced yourselves. However, he doesn't seem too responsive to at least what you're saying. Is he more looks away from Wulfric, catches eyes of Eidolon, and more rushes him. To which case, I need 4 of you to roll me initiative.
Can I just say what I do in response to that?
Yeah.
Step forward, intent to block, but if it appears impossible, does he appear to be going for the rapier or not? Actually, that's an important question.
It's kind of more at his side as he's running with it at his side to kind of slash up.
Cool. No, that's completely fine then. It's completely fine. It's fine. Everything's fine.
So, Paul, with your move as well, because obviously you were technically holding your action.
Yes.
I will, once I've got the initiative orders for folk, you can make your Thorn Whip to see if you can restrain him.
Wulfric being standing right next to Eidolon, you would just hear a sigh the second he starts running forward.
This is what you feared, I take it.
It still might not be, but it's more the chances is getting higher and higher.
Yeah, I shouldn't have moved in there.
Actually, would I have the chance to ask him something before combat begins, or?
No.
Cool, I'll have to ask him mid-combat.
I do
Can I
enjoy
ask an arm
conversation.
question?
Yes.
Good old mid-combat
Hey,
conversation.
it'll just make Wulfric and Eidolon look a bit cooler as they're having a casual conversation mid-combat.
Yes, Matthew.
How does the other Matthew spell his name?
The same way you spell your name.
Okay, it's the correct spelling then.
You could
That's
have made
all
it
I
the-
wanted to know.
No,
What's
like,
the other
What
way?
Well, if
Just
you'd
the
spell
one
it, the
yeah, there's Matthew
the
with one
IEU.
The wrong way.
No, when I was
I've
making
seen
this,
people
I was
spell
trying-
Matthew IEU.
They're just stupid.
I've seen people spell Matthew from H.
No, that's just Matu.
No, but as in pronounced Matthew.
But it's just Matu.
Anyway, combat.
Combat.
Initiative.
Calm.
Right, so Paul, before we start initiative combat, make me a spell attack roll to see if you can hit him with your Thorn Whip.
You must whip it. Whip it real good.
Not good.
You don't whip it. I mean, you do, but
Okay.
it's ineffective.
Yeah.
As again, your kind of
Good
whip
miss.
seems to go awry, your connection to nature here seems to almost be a bit severed. Being in a stone building, obviously not the best for a druid. However, coming top of initiative, it is your turn anyway, so if you wanted to kind of almost take another swing at it, so to speak, you could do
Ah.
that.
I'll take another swing at it. What's the point? Why do I bother?
You went up by 1.
Why?
Yeah.
This is why we can't have nice things.
He might just be a nobleman.
Well,
do you know what a
I don't
nobleman's
have much
AC is, Greg?
I have no idea.
It's really high, I imagine.
It's higher than 10.
I just thought maybe commoner.
No, nobles for some reason have high AC. Although in saying that, the noble in the book is wearing, the noble in the Monster Manual is wearing a breastplate. He is not wearing a breastplate, but his AC is still higher than 10.
Let's go.
Well, there's not much else I can do.
As next in the initiative order, it is him.
So he's still going for me.
Yeah, he's still going for you.
He's not me after trying to attack him twice.
Pretty single-minded in his focus, I imagine.
That's not
Very
gonna
suddenly and
hit,
surprisingly.
'cause that's 15. Does that hit you, Craig?
That's 1 beneath my AC. My AC is 16. I think me and Euan have the same AC.
Yes, we do 16.
Yes, that does not hit you, as the rapier seems to go astray, as he does not appear to be a very well-trained swordsman. He is very much more of a statesman.
I'll more staticize as if he's going forward. The slash is more just move to the side, take the empty left hand, and almost like push his arm to the side.
Yeah.
So the slash just goes next to him. More get him into a position for analysis. It's the best way to put it.
As moving to initiative order, we have Euan.
Right,
Oh no, for it!
My action is I whip round. I whip round him. And I make a swing with my. Great axe.
Lethally or non-lethally?
Non-lethally.
Can't believe he really did this soon. Like, what the fuck?
Does a 15 hit?
Yes.
His AC is somewhere between 10 and 15.
There's 5 numbers.
Okay,
Nah,
so, so he takes give me a sec. 13 points of damage plus an additional D8. Can he give me a strength saving throw?
You're not very good at these.
That's the point.
18.
Shit.
He's not very good at these. 18.
Dang. That's wait. I was gonna. Never mind. Never mind.
That was a roller coaster of emotion.
As moving down, we then have Eidolon.
I was gonna attempt to get him to drop his weapons. My thing.
So now that he's right next to me, can I see the marks a bit better?
Yes.
Is that an insight perception, or what can you tell me about what I see?
So because of your perception last time and because of your kind of knowledge of, I suppose, this more macabre, perhaps?
More specifically, this.
You can tell that it's strange, as it looks very similar, but it almost looks like it's not really there. Like, it's almost like he got it without even coming in contact with it.
That's horrifying. Great. I'd look to Ranaagash or Markusar and just ask, do you have any way to calm his emotions?
Not particularly. Does he count as an animal, right? No.
No. I wouldn't imagine so.
Well, I'm fresh out of luck.
Does Ranaagash say anything?
Would paralysis count as calming him down?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Then yes.
Alright, as standing next to me, I'd more take a slash to his legs, just more to try and knock him off balance.
Cool. Give me a roll. Nope.
Yeah. Yeah, that didn't go too well. And then more just bonus action, I'll try just drag his attention to make sure he stays focused on me by more just punching at his sword arm.
Cool.
Try at least make him lose his grip on it ever so slightly. And of course I rolled a 21 for the fist.
Roll me some damage. That tends to be how monks play.
6 damage. Yeah, I don't know if that'll have disrupted his hold on his rapier at all, but...
I'll do it. Save. He seems to be holding it though. Again, you see he's definitely not a trained swordsman, is the only reason he's still holding onto the rapier is he's actually holding the hilt backwards, so rather than the cage protecting the back of his hand, it's sitting at the front of his palm, physically almost trapping his hand inside the hilt.
That's not good for your muscles.
No, it's not. But it's quite clear that this was a sword more for decoration than for actual use.
Yeah, I'll leave it to Ranaagash then, because that's my turn. That is my turn.
As Ran, it is your go.
Okay. I'm gonna do 2 things. First of all, I'm gonna cast Hold Person. Second of all, I'm gonna use the other number up here to give him a 2.
To make him fail.
Yeah.
Why was I trying Thorn Whip when you've got Hold Person?
I was gonna say something, but the moment passed and it felt awkward.
Fair.
Alright, so he's paralyzed. Unless he's got a nutty addition to a wisdom saves.
No. Because with the 2
Okay.
it would make it 4, because he has no proficiency
Yeah.
in the wisdom save.
Yeah, that fails. Just a bit.
So yeah, he is paralyzed.
Is that a save at the end of his turns, or?
End of each turns, yeah.
That's perfect. Let's just hope he fails the next one.
You get 1 turn.
You get 1. 1, guys. That's all you get.
Everybody gets 1.
Make it count. I don't have another 2.
Sees everything you ever wanted in one moment.
Right, so top of initiative order, Paul.
So he's paralyzed right now.
He is paralyzed right now, yes. But stay.
Just curious what the plan of action is here, whether we're going to like damage him enough till he's unconscious or something. Cast Moonbeam.
Alrighty then.
I think Paul's decided.
You double check them. Ooh, I might not have the material components.
So with material components, unless it has a specific cost on it, so for example like a diamond worth 1,000 gold, or like a gemstone worth 50 gold, it is assumed usually that you're either arcane focus, components pouch, druidic focus, or cleric's focus make up the components.
Okay.
A lot of the time
Yeah.
components can be for aesthetics, and some people do say that you need to have X amount of components, but I prefer that unless the component has a value, it's covered by your focus. Either that or spellcasting. It's like counting ammunition. I don't particularly count ammunition either, because I assume that after the end of combat you're going to go and pick up all the ammunition again. So,
Yeah.
unless a spell specifically states a value against its components, assume that your druidic focus covers the components required.
Fair enough. So I can cast Moonbeam.
You can, yes.
Okay.
As this gets pretty toasty.
Are you guys dropping?
30?
You don't need to
Moonbeam,
roll for Moonbeam. So Moonbeam
Oh, you
is
don't.
a Constitution saving throw on my part, as you will.
So it is. I misread. My apologies.
5-foot radius, 10-foot diameter, which would also encompass, at this point, I need to do a small diagram.
Can I say I positioned it behind him so it's just him that it hits and not us?
Perfect. That's all I needed.
You were just
Technically,
waiting for like,
Yeah.
is Paul gonna save his ass
Yeah, I was
here,
just
or
gonna
what is
be
he
like,
gonna do?
so is like Euan and Craig are both fighting him right now. Is Paul actually gonna save them, or is he just gonna be like, nah, it's just going straight on him?
Just collateral damage.
No, fuck
Nothing to worry about.
So yeah. Con is a Constitution of 8, so con save of 8.
Ooh, that fails.
Cool. So he taketh the damage.
2d10 radiant damage.
Which it's magic damage you can't do non-lethally.
$14 damage.
So as Markusar kind of casts this moonbeam, you kind of see the white light almost being pulled into the room from every fibre. The kind of small silver particles almost glistening in this white light as it shines down upon the mayor, Matthew Bellamy, and quite quickly, bathed in light, the mayor falls unconscious, kind of dropping to the ground, weapon clattering against the stone floor as he kind of falls into a heap up in front of Eidolon and Wulfric.
Not dead?
You don't know. He looks dead. He's very toasty.
Are we
Oh,
out of
no.
combat or?
Yes.
For now.
After he falls to the ground, I'll loudly announce to Wulfric, Markusar, and Ranaagash, "Stay back."
I kind of don't pay attention to the guy on the floor. I instead crouch down beside her. And I've put my axe away. It's like, are you can come out now?
She like slowly, you can hear her kind of panted breath as she kind of slowly moves the chair out of the way and kind of starts to move out of kind of the crawl space under the vanity table. Craig, Matthew, and Paul, what are you guys doing at this point in time?
I'm
guess-
going over to the unconscious heap, pushing it over, taking out my dagger, and carving off his clothes.
Nice.
Well, his essentially like torso clothes.
I'm observing Eidolon and just keeping my distance, as he did say, stay back.
And Ranaagash?
Yeah. I'll let those two get on with it.
Cool. So, Eidolon, as you are beginning to carve away his kind of padded tunic, his clothing, to kind of always see the scars underneath his body.
I need to see how far it's spread to see the duration of how long he's had this.
You, and for you, Markusar, as well, you would see this kind of quite disturbingly, I suppose, as the marks that were kind of blotched against his skin. This would be your first time actually noticing these, Ran. Seem to start almost pulsing. They seem to start turning black. Almost start to crawl across his chest, up his neck, down his arms, across his rib cage and down towards his pelvis. It almost seems to start spreading throughout his veins, to the point that through almost his nose, his mouth, his ears, anything that could, I suppose, allow it to escape, he seems to start exuding a black mist. As Eidolon, as you're almost expecting the body and his eyes open to a very familiar and haunting purple colour.
I'm gonna take my left hand, loosen one of the belt straps, and just put my hand down onto his face. More just holding his head to the ground.
Paul, how do you react?
I ask Eidolon what's happening to him.
He's far gone, Dad. Just leave it be.
For what you can kind of see, Paul, he does still look alive. His body seems to be twitching. Eidolon's holding his head down, like pinning him in place, and he's almost writhing underneath it. Like the discomfort of Eidolon holding him down is almost causing him some kind of pain.
As I'll reach forward, take the dagger out of the breast pocket, and angle it to essentially put it directly into his skull.
For yourself, Euan, as this is kind of going on behind you, you start getting Elsha slowly out of the vanity until she sees this scene going on behind you, and she retreats back into it, almost crying out in quite a fearful tone as you turn around to see the kind of infected man kind of writhing underneath Eidolon as he is holding him down with a knife to his head.
Right. I didn't know that was happening. Sorry about that, wee one. We've just got to go sort something. I'll be right back. And I turn around and walk over and go, what in the shit is happening here?
As more just keeping the head pressed down. Do I have a good angle?
You would, yes.
More look into the man's eyes. Is there any of him left?
There seems to be a little bit. You're not too sure if he was all dead when the moonbeam hit.
It doesn't look like if I let go, he'd just start going for it.
Yeah, to the point where you can kind of almost feel him writhing underneath you, to the point that if you left it for an explanation, he'd probably lash out.
Then I'll just say quickly, Wulfric, there's no time. As I would just drive the dagger into his skull.
Give me an attack roll with advantage.
I'm just going to roll 2d20 because I don't know how to use the command. Actually,
That's fair.
Chat. Has the command been used?
Yes, it's roll it's /R 2d20 KH 1 and plus your modifier.
This is also one of the reasons I don't do the roll 20, because I don't actually know all the commands for rolling properly.
Oh, that's a nat 20.
Oh shit.
As you just plunge it straight in, give it a turn, give it a twist, and pull it straight back out again. He quite quickly
It would be a
stops.
little brutal, as the hand would be kept down, dagger would be plunged in. It's more taking it as a more grip, dragging it out, probably watching a little bit of the of it still spreading, driving it into the side, taking hold of it, and then pushing it out.
Grim.
As there's now a very large hole in the side of the mare's head.
Cover that up with like a cloth or something. Nothing from her
I-
room.
Oh, I was going to use the bedsheets.
As Eidolon would quickly move out of the room and find someone to interrogate.
The closest person would probably be Caradoc, so the mayor's son. Is he would kind of, upon hearing the commotion, almost be halfway up the stairs as you're halfway down the stairs.
Bloody dagger visibly put back into the sheath. Stop the kid on the stairs. More through body language more than anything else. How long has he been like that?
Been like what?
The mayor, whoever he is. The marks, how long has he had them?
You kind of see him kind of give you more of a confused look, though it's more of a worried, confused look. What marks?
He's not lying, is he?
No.
As it's more just the scowl back down the stairs.
Is he kind of heads up the stairs to head to the room. As you guys will kind of cover the body. And I imagine remove Elsha from the room as well.
Yeah.
She is obviously quite fairly shaken about the whole thing, as the three of you kind of lead her from the room, kind of taking her down the corridor. You kind of meet Caradoc halfway. He kind of takes her from you and kind of more comforts her. he kind of looks at the three of you. What happened? Your friend, he said my father had marks.
He was overtaken by some weird black purple marks. He started writhing after he ran at us. He was pacing. He ran at us, terrified Elsha.
I'm assuming he's...
Yes, he is.
He's gone. I'm sorry.
I do thank you for what it's worth.
If given the choice, I would have spared his life, but he was too far gone.
Is Eidolon, where are you?
Downstairs. Does there appear to be anyone else of note?
Other than the two sisters and the stepmother, and then obviously the two guardsmen who were standing guard outside the door.
Do the women appear distraught, or...?
The older of the two women, so the stepmother, does look very kind of upset. She looks very more now than she was when you came in, considering the commotion she heard upstairs. The other two, they look upset, but they're more trying to comfort their mother.
Does it look like if I went over, I'd be able to get anything out of them?
No.
Yeah, in that case, I'm just leaving then. More just heading outside, finding a wall to lean against, and lighting the pipe with intent. I'm more just waiting for the rest of them to be done.
I think I would follow Eidolon.
As you kind of head down the stairs. With Elsha and Caradoc almost kind of seeing you out. Caradoc's very quite intentionally almost keeping conversation to a minimum, at least whilst you're in earshot of his stepmother. It's obviously something he doesn't particularly want her overhearing, at least at this point in time.
Yes.
As he kind of takes at least the three of you to the door, where you can see Eidolon has propped himself up on the manor, kind of the garden wall of the manor.
Sort of only light that's actually illuminating his eyes at this point is the red of the pipe.
The pipe.
Do you care to explain what that was?
More for Wulfric's sake, if I'd have let him go, he would have tried to kill us all at the spot.
I imagine so, with the strange darkness that was overtaking him.
I do apologize I couldn't have delayed or moved him to another room.
No need to apologize, we just did what was necessary.
And no, Markusar, I can't exactly explain.
As you're kind of having this kind of conversation, after being kind of farewelled by the family, you kind of hear a kind of small voice, more coming from behind you, as wrapped in kind of a small cloak, is Elsha. I'm sorry.
Don't apologize. This wasn't your fault.
Actually, I think it was.
Elaborate, please.
For a while, Matthew would use my visions. He could target certain travelers. He could get them arrested, and he could take their goods. I could see things, the things he wanted, and he came to me asking about you. And I saw. She kind of gestures to kind of the rest of you. I saw you on the bridge. I saw your meeting. He could see what I was seeing, and he wanted to know who you were. I pried further, and I don't know what it was. I felt almost like I blacked out, and I can't remember what I was projecting. I can't remember It felt angry. I let go. I let go of the vision. I let go of the projection. I freaked out. I got scared.
You have every right to be.
But when I woke, to connect the visions, to allow him to see what I see, where I placed my hand on his shoulder and where it was I don't know how, I don't know what it is. I don't know. It just, what was infecting him. I think I did it.
You didn't do it. His repeated exploitation of your powers caused him to meddle in things he didn't understand. I am a man whose past should not be delved into. And he paid that price.
Eidolon more just stares blankly at the girl, never really breaking any form of eye contact.
I just wanted to say thank you, and to say sorry for any hardship I will have caused.
You've caused no hardship. It's okay. Just as long as you're better now. I have this medicine that was meant for you. I don't even know if it worked for you. You can have it if you want.
Is it from Hazel?
Yes.
Will help.
I hand it over to her.
She kind of takes it and kind of gives you a weak smile.
Kind of ruffle her hair a wee bit. You're not a bad kid. You can just see things.
Elsha, was it?
Yes.
Can I ask you one question?
I can't guarantee I can answer.
From what we gathered, it should be something easy for you. The lands you saw in your dreams, however long ago it was, or however recent they still are, what did they look like?
It depends where they take me. I see vast cities across oceans. I see deserts, canals that seem to irrigate cities, give people running water. I see forests and trees and the people within. And
Slightly more relaxed, a sigh stands up off the wall. Then you just made a wrong turn. With like a very certain tone to it, before taking a whiff of the pipe and just walking off.
Eidolon.
Stop, turn around.
She peered into my past. I've never been to wherever you're from. But whatever is from where you're from might be leaking further down.
He gives you a weak smile before turning around to continue walking.
You should get back into the house, Elshot. You'll catch a cold.
she kind of gives you a nod, more gesturing towards Ranaagash and Markusar as well, giving you both a smile. A concerned glance cast at Eidolon starting to walk down the hill before she retires back into the manor house.
Turn around and start walking after Eidolon.
I'm assuming you will all retire to the inn.
When they get back to the inn, they'd find Eidolon sitting back at his corner table. People watching mainly.
As he would see Eidolon, he would sit down across from him, because I assume it's like a corner booth.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like sat in the corner next to one of the windows.
He sits down. Hoping that Ranaagash and Markusar are following him. And he goes, I don't know what kind of shit you have to deal with, but doing it alone is not the best idea. I think we should stick together, at least for now.
And where are you heading?
Wherever the wind takes me. I'm seeking truth.
As he then cast a gaze to Ranaagash and Markusar.
I go wherever she leads me.
Well, it'll be interesting to say the least.
As he'd literally take his head and put it in both hands. So, it looks like I'm the only one with a concrete destination.
I have a destination, but I don't know where that is.
The people I'm looking for could be anywhere.
I'm heading to the Citadel.
There's bound to be one of them there.
If you're intending on traveling with me, be careful. What you saw in the manor house is a far cry away from the worst.
I'm an iron dragon. We are the worst.
As he'd give a hearty chuckle to that, though you can tell part of it is insincere, as he'd take a drink from the tankard. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
As Eidolon would call the bartender for a round of drinks.
As you would sit and drink for the evening, and then eventually retire. To which case, all of you deduct 2 gold.
It's fine, man.
So,
For bed, board, and food.
Can somebody spot me for the gold? I'm not very liquid right now.
Oh yeah, Paul
Oh,
doesn't
Jesus
have money
Christ.
because he's a druid.
I would also explain to the bartender when she comes over what actually happened in the manor house.
Yeah.
Because it's important that the townsfolk know that something like that happened. Not what happened with Elsha, but what actually happened to Matthew. So essentially get the rumor mill spreading. Though I'll specifically ask her, make sure to spin a tale of how it actually happened.
Yeah.
Like really get the gossip mill turning
Yeah.
on that one.
oh, this is
And-
this is a small town. Everybody's granny will know about it by the end of tomorrow.
As that's where we are ending our session 1.
That was excellent.
Hey, and you were worried we wouldn't have camaraderie by the end of the first session, Em?
I mean, I'm literally mostly just banking on the fact that the 5 of us are pretty good mates, so you know.
We do.
Hey, you guys didn't start the session arguing with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's new.
There was no witty quips being thrown back and forth between anyone apart from, you know, Wulfric calling Eidolon a lad and Eidolon calling Wulfric an old man.
I hope that continues.
It's just because I love how I wrote Wulfric to be this Germanic man, but then I play him in the game and I instantly went to the most reliable accent I could do, which is just thickening my Scottish brogue.
It works. It
Yeah.
works.
It does work for him though, like it does. But no, I
It
do
does.
hope you all enjoyed the session, and hopefully we'll be
This
back
was great.
a little bit more as well. Play some more
Yeah.
D&D.
Hope if there's anybody watching that they enjoyed watching.
Yeah, I guess we'd hope to see you next time to continue the story. Just seems weird still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's hoping.
Bye!
Bye.
Uh,